Hello, hello, guys. Sorry about that. It was spinning and spinning. Who's tuned in? Who is tuned in to the Democratic National Convention that is going on right now? It's probably a lot. Hello, Tall Glass. How you doing this evening? It's late tonight. Did you watch Tall Glass? Did you watch court today? Hello, Special. Hello, Emmanuel. Thank you, Tall Glass. Hello, Miss Jams. How many of you guys tuned in to the court today? Hi there, 321 relax. Hello, hello. It was a wild day in that courtroom today. A wild, wild day. I was waiting for a recap from Sylvia, but that never happened. Oh, I'm sorry, Manuel. Miss Jams, you did. We watched as the judge let in all the cumulative evidence. I am blown away today. Well, every day, but today, um, the finishing of the sentences for the state, um, the parts where you see the state was struggling to have an explanation, and you seen uh, the judge finish it off, and give that. And I was like, wow, wow, wow. Are we really seeing this? Lyrics went in today. That's a huge one. That was allowed for Jeffrey's song, Just How It Is. Yeah, it was crazy, Toglass. Definitely, it was assistance. Definitely finishing it off because um, had the state provided their own explanation, they were paused to give the explanation every single time and, stuttered and didn't have the reasonable explanation coming, obviously, because you would obviously start it out right away. And the dropping in and finishing it off was wild. Wild. And even on the lyric part, I mean, logically, do you think someone's going to say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to kill this person, this person, this person. I just have to pay 2 million. I don't have to worry about it." I mean, literally. Make that make sense. Yes, 3, 2, 1. Miss Love freezes, starts stuttering, and the judge just speaks for her. Like, what the F is happening? Yeah, I was totally, totally blown away that the extension of the conversation for the explanation was half state, half judge. And you could see on the different parts of the camera them looking around the the defense attorneys were looking at each other like, is this happening? I noticed that the defendants were leaning into their attorney ears, and they were probably speculation, asking what's happening. Yeah, do you mean, did you mean? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I I was really, really, I was really shocked. I was really shocked. And it was every time that there was a stutter, a stop, something. And we were going to actually cover the convention stuff today. And I said, we got to speak on it a little bit here because there was a lot going on that has been let in over these past couple days that has been really, really insane. I think what we seen before, it was just very outright, where I think you can kind of appreciate Glanville in that sense because he didn't hide it. But here it's very scary because it goes back and forth. But it seems like, when it comes down to the stuff that really should not be there, it's I'll allow it, letting it in, letting it in, letting it in. I'll allow it, letting it in, letting it in. And then providing the explanation every single time. We believe that that's speculation. Every single time we hear, well, we believe, and we think that he said this or he said that. So it's like it's kind of different with her because hiding the hands is a lot more well. Can you hear? Is the audio good for you now?
I can hear you.
Awesome. We can hear you now.
Well, I was just going to say, I agree. I feel like she loves to play with her words. Semantics is her thing. And she thinks she's a strong debater. But since Steele isn't there, she's catching it from Sharp. And she's not knowing how to take a tactical stance and block everything that he's sending for her, even with all the preliminary cases that were dismissed. And she's trying to come up and speak about it. And right, the 403s, the 402s, and the 401s, the judge is just obviously on the state side, but she doesn't know how to say, you know what, you guys are causing a mistrial. You guys need to reconvene, come back, or we just need to drop it. But still, he has his man protecting him. Sharp has their back. I wonder how it's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, everything that has been let in over the couple days, we obviously don't stream the trial, but we, have to tune in. I mean, I had to keep rewinding, stopping, going back. I'm like, that did not just happen. I missed like a whole sentence or two that must have came in. And I would rewind again and it wouldn't be there. And I'm like, okay. And then I would rewind again. I'm like, all right, yep. Here we go. 403, 402, 401. And it's going to be repetitive. 403, 402, 401. And you can tell looking at the defense attorneys that they are they're in a space where they know the law. These are all, high-end attorneys that are on these cases, so obviously there's veteran prosecutors that are at the table. You have a veteran judge who has years of experience. And you look at all of that and you put that together, looking at the room, there is nothing but experience in that room as a whole. And looking at the years of experience that everyone in there has under their belt, and you see this type of stuff happening, the defense looks totally like, when is the law going to weigh in at some point? And it's just really, really crazy to see. Hello, Levin. J Kids, hello. Just watching the entire thing and watching how that's happening, they look defeated, to where they're looking for someone to weigh in. And I think that it is, time to get those certificate of reviews and get those sent up and get it up to the Supreme Court, and they have to weigh back in.
I
Um,
agree.
it's overdue. And there's been enough time that has lapsed since Glanville has exited seat. Hello, Pamela.
You know what's so shocking to me? When Love is playing the audio and then she says, "You know what? I want to redact that." It's like she wants to redact the important information that will prove that these men had nothing to do with anything that she's trying to accuse them of. But then I love how Sharp says, "No, you know what? We want to keep that in." And Whitaker is just like, "Well, I don't know. Maybe it's not going to pertain, but okay, maybe it will. Then you can object in a further down the line." How much sense does that make?
Yeah, exactly. And and not only that though, hello, I'm him. Hello. Hello, hello guys. Hello everyone. It's just the unfairness of watching it happen and just keep on hiding 403, 402, 401, and just keep on letting the things in. Anytime you start off with well, we think that this is what it is. It's like
Mhm.
there is no think in law in a trial. There is you have to know.
Right.
You have to know, you have to have the evidence. And the word think is the biggest explanation of speculation.
Absolutely.
So I was just wondering, like, how the defense is looking so defeated and so beat up right now. Said it shouldn't be more people in the world know about more about the case than the judge. We know clearly at
Yes.
times if she would see the last, she would let it out, but she refuses to look backwards. See, and that is the big problem, because it has been proven on record that there was a biased judge.
Mhm.
So I know that they didn't rule that, Judge Krause didn't rule that initially, but circumstances had changed from when Krause had the initial. So the June 10th, that's what she had based it off of. And she had, recused him because he basically interjected, put his statement on. So therefore, that was the only reason, but she didn't find anything wrong with the substance. But would that be her ruling had she got the June 7th? Because the June 7th is where it was displayed. That there was actual bias. They had basically amongst each other had said they were guilty. And a lot of things, were happening, something, along those lines. So we know that that ruling would be different because circumstances have changed since that ruling. So I really knew that this judge, the new judge that's on right now, had to weigh in, because if she didn't weigh in, since the new one had came on, then how are you really taking care of the situation? And everyone's seen that two motions were put aside for 2 weeks so she could keep pushing ahead. It was enough to quiet it down to deny it, because if it was denied on face when she received it, it had met all of its qualifications, and that's disappointing. So I just think it's time to get the certificate of reviews, get what you have and time to send it up. time to weigh in. And I wouldn't leave a drop out. I would go back to prolonged jury selection at almost 11 months. I would go to the issues on opening statement that should have been a mistrial. I would have raised the entire indictment was played for the jurors. And now there are hundreds of, not hundreds, that's a exaggeration, but there is so many redactions that have taken place since then. And then then you have ex partes, which I'm a little bit surprised they didn't dig more into, because if June 10th was about the quote unquote immunity, but June 7th took care of the immunity, and June 7th, immunity was signed at 6 a.m., there had to have been something prior to the 7th. So from the jury selection, no speedy trial, all of the different, opening statements, it should have been done.
Whitaker fails to look back because she is conceding with the state. She wants to look back in regards to some things, but not everything. If you're going to look at it holistically, you can't take bits and pieces of it and say, we're going to look at this evidence, but I don't want to hear this going forward. But perhaps if you chop it up this way and you bring it in a manner that I'm okay with, then perhaps it'll sound right to both of us. And then the defense will have to fight it.
Yeah, well, a lot of that is exactly the exact thing that keeps on being said.
Yeah.
Well, state can argue that and whatever the jury believes, and then defense can argue that, yes, but you're letting in everything where the first explanation is, well, we think.
Yeah.
And in any other courtroom, a judge will tell you, I don't care about your thoughts. I need to care about what proves that.
Absolutely.
And you can't say, well, he said, this lyric said this because an incident occurred at this time or whatever else. It's just, I'm sorry. But the problem that's happening here is they are looking at their rapper image and the videos, and they're using that as their foundation.
And it shouldn't be a basic foundation because they're artists. That is the primary word, artistic acts. That's what they're doing. They're collaborating, they're bringing forward thoughts. It doesn't mean that they're doing those things. It's just an artistic expression. The music shouldn't be on trial. The evidence is on trial.
Anybody can say anything over a beat. Anybody can say anything because those lyrics are supposed to be protected. I could see if you directly come out and say, I blew such and such head off. Okay, obviously. So obvious. And that person, was unalived or something like that. But even then, if you say it and repeat it, doesn't make that reality. And so that is the whole thing here was what everybody is seeing. And it's crazy. It's really, really crazy to see the just how it's being done, how everything is going. So I'm just really anxious to see what tomorrow is going to hold, to see what is the differential, and what can be different. Do you guys think that Tuesday was a better day for defense? Because I just feel like the past 3 days has been insane looking at this stuff and letting it in. Objections, speculation.
Yeah. And hearsay. Rule 801D2E.
Yeah, well, and honestly, I mean, when you get to the point where, you know, with the June 7th transcript, you have a bias, obviously, a judge that any other judge will say, okay, at some point of time, and this is not, and this is what, you know, Judge Whitaker needs to take in account. It's not an attack on Glanville personally, because as you heard Steele say and other attorneys, prior to this case, they liked him as a person. So like everyone, you know, was attacking him, attacking him. You know, at some point in the trial is where something went wrong, where personal feelings have interjected into the case.
Mm-hmm.
He's human. Yes, he's a judge, so there's expectations. It's okay, but recuse yourself when you start to get those. Instead, you stayed on the bench, kept going, 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 going. And then all of these things come out and you see that, okay, somewhere it went wrong. But if you weren't ruling like that previously to what others are saying that, you know, the reputation is, that's the crazy part about it. That's the crazy part about it, because you're seeing it again. When Whitaker came on, she set deadlines and I need this, 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 and this is what it is. Well, no one still has those items, and they do not meet deadlines. And that's just what it is. So it's just really disappointing to see. And then looking around there, everyone is beat down, and the judge is a fresh face in there. So she's not understanding either the weariness. She's saying, yes, I understand, but you're truly not understanding the weariness of the situation. And what they have been through. There was long periods of time in the trial where Attorney Sharp couldn't even get up and really make an objection. He was told to sit down.
Yeah.
And I've just never seen that either. And when he finally exploded, you know, I can understand, because he had most of the direct disrespect. So it was just really disappointing to see after today, after, you know, this week, because a lot of evidence was coming in this week. The lyrics were this week. And it was really disappointing just to see that this is every day. And it's okay to start off an argument or an explanation to, well, we think it's this.
And
And
Levin, I agree with you that the state has been unprepared every day that they've been in the courtroom. But I love how Sharp and Steele brings up the Brutin rule, which safeguards the defendants against the confrontation clause. So, and that's a part of the Sixth Amendment, which I didn't know, and I had to dig in deeper to understand that. And what it states is the Brutin rule safeguards the defendant's confrontation clause rule. It applies when a non-testifying co-defendant confession naming the defendant in a particular crime. It is introduced at a joint trial, and we see that this is what these men are in. And every time the state wants to bring up something that is hearsay, 801 rule that's been thrown across the room from the defense, this Brutin rule is what Steele is relying on to help circumvent these testimonies to be placed upon these men. And still Whitaker is not even allowing this to be accepted. I
yeah,
don't know what it is that she's looking for. Like, they're bringing up so many cases,
she's
Bruton
looking for
versus
to speed
United
ahead.
States.
She's looking to speed ahead.
But
There,
if that was the case, they would have a speedy trial. And she sees that there is no candor in the court. She sees that the evidence is not presented in a timely manner, because she asked the state time and time again, are you guys ready? But then she would chastise the defense for not having something completed.
well, the speedy trial couldn't happen because they just weren't ready. That's why jury selection went into almost 11 months, so the extra time could be prepared. And that's just what it was.
And they
So it's
still
just
unprepared.
disappointing. It's every day. Obviously, everyone pretty much knows that, it's been recorded. We've seen the lack of candor to the court. Those are definitely state bar issues that you could probably almost guarantee that are going to be there after this trial.
Yes.
So there's going to be, other ramifications that take place, but I'm just really hoping that, they push it up again. It's well overdue. I wouldn't leave anything out. I would go back from all the way back to jury selection, all the way down. If the motion needs to be 300 pages, so be it. Make it work at this point, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot happening. The judge set all these deadlines, and she asked them, when did I say to get that in again? Um, oh, you were supposed to have that last
Right.
Friday. Okay, why isn't that done? Um, well, Judge, because we were trying to open up this file, but this file didn't work. So we had to reload it onto another one. Okay, when can you get that to me? Um, well, how about Wednesday? It'll be like 3 days from when then. And I'm like, this is not reality.
No.
And one thing about law is you have to know, you have to know and mean and follow up. When you set deadlines as a judge, you need to follow up with those. And you need to know what you set and when you set it. So the little notes that are being taken, you need a calendar. On this date, I told state to have this in. On this date, I told defense to have this in, and you follow up first thing that morning.
Absolutely.
Did we turn over these things? Or there shouldn't even be an ask. It should be there. It should be emailed. It should be there. There should be no question. And that's where, I just had to, let you guys know that, and let you guys know that this is why it makes a difference for you guys to be involved, because a lot of people don't know how their voices can be heard as a citizen, and don't even know that you can be a part. You can change public policy, and you can help with that. I'm going to link it's basically just an informative 3 pages, and it tells you how a bill becomes law. It also tells you about introducing the bill, referring the bill to committee and subcommittee. It tells you co-sponsoring the bill, subcommittee hearing and markup, full committee hearing and markup, floor consideration and full chamber vote, and then consideration by the other chamber, and then conference committee, consideration of uniform legislation by House and Senate, and then it goes sent to the president. So there's a lot of steps that go into it, but you guys can fight on the advocacy side, and then get with the senators to help create it so it can be pushed up. And that is where you guys can come in at. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know how they can get involved, and they don't know how powerful their voice is, and they don't know how powerful, when you petition, when you do call of actions, how powerful that is, because they're listening, and then they want to know, what is the issue, what is the problem. And you're seeing these things continuously, time after time after time after time. It's not waiting. And, you guys can have your own foundation. Just have to establish a vision, conduct your research, educate others, and support an advocacy organization. You support implementation and then legal advocacy, and you're in there. So there's a lot of ways to make that work for you guys and to be involved, because what we're seeing right now is insane. It is insane. I just really want to know, how long do you guys honestly think this trial will go to? Says the RICO law is way too broad, or bring used underhandedly, because I don't understand how regular law can be violated, but okay in RICO. RICO is very broad. And I have not seen RICOs handed out like this in any other place, like back to back, and have several going on. You just think of those taxpayer dollars that are happening. Says until October. It's really a sight to see the things that are happening and everything that is going on back to back, and it's like no let up. So it makes you look at it as a whole, right? There's a couple different judges, some recused, one stayed on. There was a bias, and then now there's another one, and it always seems as if there is some type of extension. So it only makes you look at things to see what is happening behind the scenes. Do you guys think that the behavior is the same for the judge, or do you think that it's changed since time has gone on? Summer of 2025. Oh gosh, we would hope not.
I pray not. But
The policies will already, the bill will already be sent down the pipeline before it's done. Says change. Yeah.
I just want to say, I think the reason why they are trying to put RICOs on so many people, it's because, as we see, they keep introducing this intrinsic evidence. So whatever they find, they just want to keep on adding it up to make something stick, until one of the evidence that they presumably have no longer fits the criteria. So they continuously look for something to tie everyone together, or should I say all of those defendants that they want to be locked up, just to prove a case.
Yeah. Yeah. And to see, some of the other cases that have just been dealt with right before this one, that is, they had a, plea that they had to plead that they were, belonging to a certain gang, and not particularly this trial or some of the severed, but they were speaking on others before it. And so that right there is a really, really big deal, right? Because you have to think of the pleading that happens. So on average for the jail, we, statistically, it's been on the news. There's been analysis ran. There has been investigations open, as everyone knows, into the jail.
Mhm.
And so you have seen some pictures of the jail right here on this channel. And so you know the condition of the jail. So just imagine you're there for 4 times longer the amount than a normal jail just to see a judge. That's been proven. They're going to plead to whatever paper comes to them to get out of Rice Street. So if you're in Rice Street and you're in those conditions and you have a member of the state that comes to you with a piece of paper and said, you can go home today. All you have to say is you are a gang member to this gang. Oh, that's easy work. Who do I have to tell that to? Me. And you just gotta, okay. All right. Well, I'm in my gang. Okay. I need you to sign right here. Okay. That's right. Okay. Got it. We'll get you processed and we'll get you, or get you back and we'll, ask for your process to be expedited.
And I'm sure
So,
that's why some of them
yeah.
had taken the Alfred plea,
Well,
just so they won't have to be in those conditions.
yes. I mean, that is that that is the reason, because it is a conditional decision.
Absolutely.
And nobody wants to talk about that. And I understand people cover this trial and do that. That right there is like a quid pro quo. You do this, I got this.
Yep.
But they are in desperation to get out of there. So you want me to say that? Well, why is it so important to say that on a piece of paper? So two ways. It can be used to show that you are connected to another individual when there's crimes or acts in furtherance of, that's going to be what is used. And when you spin the block a second time and you go before the court, or if you are ever, you're done. So you're disposed of at that point. There was a young man that got over 15 years for a weapon. But the governor in Georgia says it's a right to bear arms.
Right. That's your Second Amendment.
Everybody can carry, but then you got it out of control there, and the violence is out of control, but it is open carry. And if you're in a dangerous place like that, and you're in a place where you have to be defensive, you have to fight to stay alive, can you really fault them at what point if you don't have enough staff to supervise the inmates, if you don't have enough sweeps being done in there to be able to conceal the contraband, then how is that going to work? You have to make everything make some type of sense, but this is the only reason why these pleas are going the way they want to get out of there. They want to get out of that condition. But, from statistics, if you don't have something to protect yourself, I mean, anyone is in self-defense going to. And I commend them for trying to do the right thing, and trying to live amongst those conditions, because it's not for the weak. And then you have to mentally prepare for a trial that has been ongoing for a long time.
Absolutely. And it's
Candy, I'm
so
gonna have you just talk for 1 second. I got to close the window.
okay. Yeah. And so, like, the trial is instability. They're always on guard as to how is this going to go today? What are my defense attorneys going to have to prove? What is Whitaker going to stand for? How long are we going to take a break right now? What evidence isn't ready from the state? What new evidence are they going to present? Intrinsic evidence. What is she going to block from my attorney? Even though they're letting Whitaker know, hey, this is Brutin rule. You are accepting all of these inadequate evidence into play, but they have nothing to do with this trial at this time because they're not lining up to make it make sense. And so it's like, not only are these young men mentally exhausted, but so are the defense lawyers. You can see it on their face, you could hear it in their voices. And they are doing extensive research with these case laws, only for the judge to um, object to all of those findings that they're coming up with. She at least could take the time and knowledge herself in regards to these cases that are being presented for her.
Absolutely. I did drop the StreamYard in case anyone wants to come up and give your point of view on what is happening. But I did want to give you guys just the steps in the law, what I gave you guys. I'm going to put that link in there for you guys. So that way you can see how you can get involved and be able to help change these things wherever you are. If you are within that area, wherever you're at in your area, get involved and help make those changes and shed light, because there could be the same very situation happening right there that just is not televised for you guys, where you guys are not able to see it, or no one's covering it because there's no name attached to it. Other than that is not of a famous person or that has some type of stature.
And Tall Glass, I pray that they all get a bail, because they should.
Well, we're over that part.
I know,
They've tried it through several, and
right.
it's not even to bring false hope anymore. They are not going to allow it. They said they're not going to allow it, and somehow they think that they need to be held on no bail, and that's not what it says. This should not be allowed, but they know that it's reachable for every single one of them.
Right, but they also know they're violating their constitutional rights.
What are those? Because I don't see those there.
For who? That their rights are being violated?
No, I don't think that word is inside there anymore. Oh. That word has been lost.
Okay, because I'm like, wait a minute.
No, that was just being me sarcastic, and I shouldn't have been.
I'm
so
sorry.
I apologize.
I was getting a little bit emotional.
You know what? We always say leave your emotion out of it. For the last 3 days, I am just in a, you know what? That's why I said today, Candy was like, okay, are we going over the convention and where they're voting at today? And I'm like, no, they're going to speak on it today. And we're just going to put a bullhorn, because right now, it's just the faith in the judicial process that you think you can hold on to a little sliver of hope. It's like it's being demolished and laughed through at the most inappropriate times in there, which is wild to me. It doesn't matter what it is. It could literally be one of the guys said, oh, I was shooting up in the air and I hit cloud 9. They're going to say, on this day, he took a gun and was shooting in the air wildly, and that is our belief. It says what?
Right, and how? It started raining.
Yeah, it started raining. And it's a whole lot to unpack and see that this is their reality. This is literally their reality right now. This is what is happening. Can you just step in the shoes of the defendants? They're being transferred, from this nasty jail that is beyond inhumane. And then you have them going in there fighting for their life, literally fighting for their life. And you can see the judges be changed. You can see that your attorney's been locked up. You can see that this judge has allowed lack of candor to the court, has allowed things that could have been a mistrial. Brady material, instead of a mistrial, we're going to have you as a remedy watch a video. And yeah, that's where it's supposed to be. And it's just where's any type of hope? And then your guys's star witness obviously has not done what you're supposed to do.
When they come back on the 26th Monday, is he going to take the stand again? I can't remember now.
If I was not mistaken, I believe they said that everyone comes back Monday. I believe the jurors come back Monday as well. I believe, and I believe another witness is coming. I thought they said there was another one coming on Monday, but the cross hasn't happened. And then also the part where you see the limitations on cross. Well, you can question the DAs on this, but in reference to Glanville, that has been taken care of, so he doesn't need to. It's like, no, he interjected himself. There was a bias.
Absolutely.
And so that is just, disturbing to see how that's happened.
I feel like
And
when he verbalized the word we, there is a chance for him to be cross-examined. Like
well,
he already put
the judge
absolutely
here had the explanation for that, though. She said,
I know he didn't
as
mean it
we, the
that way.
people, and that's, yeah, we as in the people, and I thought, how that is speculation. You don't know the content in what he meant.
Yeah.
And you see that relationship there happening and how it's happening. It's not okay. It's not ever going to be okay, because you don't see that happening ever in no courtroom.
No.
You don't see that deep of a connection. And so it's obvious. It's way too obvious.
She can't even structure her own courtroom within the state.
You see
Love,
Baldwin trial, one
yeah,
report not sent over, and it would have helped the defense or whatever else. It could have altered the defense in their argument, and that wasn't turned over. And they said that when they figured out they were supposed to turn it over, they were, and that's when they did. The same thing has happened here, where she said she meant to turn it over, but they lost sight of it, didn't, and they have it now. And that evidence does make a difference, because they were saying it was another person that potentially could have been involved.
right.
So
And
that's a huge piece of information. So if you've seen it on the other, what did the judge come back? The judge came back and said, this is a mistrial instantly.
she sure did.
There wasn't a stutter, a wait, a stall, a nothing. She said, the law is the law.
And I agree with that. If Whitaker doesn't want to say it's Brady, and that judge in Baldwin's case said it was giglio material, which was
Well,
a ground of impeachment due
in
to the
this case, she can't deny it, though, because
absolutely
the remedy was to watch a
video.
pre-recorded Brady video.
Absolutely.
And so that wouldn't even apply. So you just see all these disservices, and it gets the people enraged. And that's exactly where we try to, inform you guys that when you are enraged and you do have a voice and you do want to speak out, these are the ways that you can do it to make sure that your voice is heard on a higher platform to help implement the change. And here they've had so many instances. What I've been doing is I'm almost done finishing a list on every single thing, and I am comparing it to cases that have had the same thing and just show what the immediate remedy was. Because as I was going through them, all of them were dealt with immediately, and all of them were mistrial. All
Absolutely.
of them were mistrial. So you look here and know that it is, um, it has to be personal. It has to be personal. And so you have to take a deeper look inside of it. And I really thought, because they know that there are investigations that are launched and open up, and they're zeroing in, you would think that they would be a lot more careful, and that the judges, it would even make them more stand up, because they're under a bigger scope, because they have to make the ruling, and they either have to allow it in or not. And so when you're seeing it allowed, and you see these different things happening, and you go through the law in the cases, how many times have we wrote down the cases that were cited from state, and when we went back in to read them, it didn't even apply to the situation. So it's like throwing a case out there. Oh, well, this sentence fits, so we'll put this
Right.
down.
Right. And that's how she's mitigating everything that the state is showing, that their incompetency in regards to collecting the evidence that is aligned with the causes or the RICO that she's trying to put forth against those men.
Yeah.
So it's just, and then they're circumventing everything by going around. Well, let's dig for this. Where are the data points for the cause, and where are the calls pinging from this tower? But then when they said that there was a phone traced back to Jeffrey, he was out of state. But you want to get his cell records? I'm glad they did keep that evidence in there, because Steele was like, you know what? Yeah, keep that in there, because he was out of state. You try to say he was there at the shooting, but this man was not even in the state.
And you just look at the different connections, and just see everything as a whole, and you say, okay, everyone thought for sure when the ex partes came, this is it,
Yeah,
this is it. And I think, that was the icing on the cake for how many things that had happened prior to. And it seems like, sometimes the judge wants to get on them, and, sometimes there's accountability, but they have missed so many deadlines. They have been late to court. They have been unprepared from the very beginning of this trial, and it shows in every single way possible. And it shows that obviously the indictment came and they were not ready for it. And so it obviously was pushed, not from them, because they don't sign on that line. Neither of the three that are at that table sign at that dotted line. And so obviously it's an order. You have to get ready. And if the work and the material wasn't there 10 years prior, there's nothing further that you're going to be able to produce going 10 years further this way. And I'm pretty sure that they look at the videos like, oh, you have to look, they're not even the same person as they were.
right.
They were young. You could tell that they all had baby faces. Every single one of them had baby faces. And if they have not been back before you since, and you hadn't had the opportunity to get them if you wanted them, because they haven't been back before you, that that speaks a big volume right there.
Absolutely.
And to even top all that off, I mean, Jeffrey's not even a felon. And the way that I'm sorry, the things that are happening right now is assassination of character. And that is how it's the stuff that is ruling in, where it has nothing to do with why they're there.
Absolutely.
And I just can't see, you have a 191 overacts and 190 don't apply. And how legally can you put that on there? The jury can't even find them guilty or not guilty. They can't even put a verdict on that.
Yeah.
But as long as they find one, and so that's kind of a catch-22, is because that's what they need, the only one that's there.
And it's unfortunate it doesn't matter which one, since it's a joint trial.
Yeah, I mean, go back 403, 402, 401, 403, 402, 401. But, as I said before, what doesn't come out in the wash definitely comes out in the rinse, and that's the way that it falls, and that's the way that it falls every time. And since so many people are zeroed in and seeing this, and a lot more people and activists and organizations are now tuned in. Actually, a lot of them didn't get involved until Glanville was recused, and I know that is sad because there was so much going on prior to, but a lot of them are now just catching up and jumping in. And, it's a lot. So now you have a lot of people outraged that weren't outraged before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly, Tall Glass. I mean, you see everyone get a bond, even if it's not a reachable bond. There was an analysis that was done on the Fulton County Jail, and what they had was on there stating that it takes 4 times longer to be able to be processed out of the jail because of a reachable bond. They said that Fulton County as a whole was setting bonds way too high for what the defendant could afford. And so it was causing an overflow and overcrowding. It was helping to contribute to the problem.
Yeah.
And those are one of the criterias that you have to be able to look are the bond factors. And for none of the gentlemen to meet any of those criterias is wild, because you see, even with the APS RICO that was right there in Atlanta from the school system RICO, they all had bonds instantly. And those are, they were all reachable, and the sentencings were all very minimal. And then you see another gentleman come in, he had pleaded before, and then he had a gun charge, and then he's gone for life.
Yeah.
And then you look at this RICO, there's no bond that any of them can get that is reachable. And no matter how many times it's brought, it's no,
Yeah.
because
I
of the
mean,
money.
and I agree with you. They should have just done 24-hour monitoring, home monitoring. They could have done something, because these gentlemen are not flight risks.
Well, they look at them as the flight risk because they have access to money. But as Steele put in his motion, he said, my client, Jeffrey, will, surrender his passport until this is over. He will turn it in until it's over with. So
And
that
that's
way he's
right.
not able, to go anywhere. He'll pay security 24/7. No one allowed in that is not on a list. They'll be subject to a search. All these extra measures that you don't hear anyone offer to the courts as part of conditional bond, that was all expense to the client. The client is covering all these charges. Plus, he would have to cover state charges for having the ankle monitor
Right.
on. And then you have to pay for that. You have to pay for supervision. All of that is not free. All of that are all extra costs that come in with it. And so you just look at these things and, reality is she's not stopping it. She said yesterday, well, the mistrial were again yesterday. And I just kind of chuckled to myself because I said, I like that she uses that when she's in the middle of kind of reprimanding the state for something that should have already been done. And then when the defense is making a point, she'll throw that in there. And I think that is just to get them going. But it's not intentional and it's not even a thought because there has been way more than enough material. But there was a point in there that I wanted to point you guys to see if you guys remember when the state had said something about a particular person and a particular video that went with that person. And she said, yeah, well, we already took care of that. I already seen that. And we already talked about that. And Shart was like, we've never covered that.
Yep.
That got me right there because I said, maybe you did hear it before, but tell us where you heard it before. Because if you are already aware, you actually had a sentence about it. So you did know about it. And that was actually covered in the past. So his confusion was, we didn't cover that with you. And that's what had me, my gear. Of course, I'm looking at every single aspect and every single part of it.
And that's why I said she picks and chooses when she's going to go back into the past and identify certain criterias that they feel meet the state's requirement to prove these men guilty. But then again, like you said, once she's made that statement, you already knew she was going to go ahead and try to cover up what she said. So now you're playing mental games with us. No, everyone's not slow. Those men, they are quick with it.
Yeah. Not only quick with it for a quick response, but you have to also look at where the defense attorneys are. I mean, you're in court all day. That is not your only client.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
all have big firms. They all have a lot of work. They all have a lot of clients. And yes, there are other people within their office that's able to, but they are of a high caliber. So they're stretching themselves so thin, and this trial has no end sight. Nobody ever thinks, oh, when I have a client that I take on and we go to trial, okay, trial's going to last a week, at longest 2 weeks. If it gets super, super crazy, if it gets into 3, that's wild. No one ever would think I'm taking on this client and I'm going to be in trial with him for 3 years.
Jesus.
Nobody, no attorney out there will ever be prepared for that.
Just
And
to
then
hear
at
those
what,
numbers,
yeah,
it's
at what
amazing.
point do you stop charging your client or you put a cap on it because they shouldn't have to keep on incurring month after month charge or nothing by the hour
Jesus.
because this is never ending. There is no end in sight. And so they keep on trying to sparse down the list. I mean, how many was there truly? At one point she said 400, one point it was 6,
I thought it was
700.
700. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, we've heard all different numbers throughout the entire time. And that's the problem. It should be, all this should have been known from day one. All of this should have been known from day one. And the defense should have had everything prior to this 10 days before trial starts.
Absolutely.
Discovery, everything is supposed to be turned over. We should not be here this late in the game.
And my thing was even the who are they? The gang um oh my goodness, experts not wanting to turn over their black book. How do we know it that evidence even exists?
For which one?
The gang expert, how they identify the criteria in regards to who are gang members and
Oh,
who
well, I mean, they went through the criteria basis when they were on the stand, and the one, out of the academy, because there was different courses that they had him take, was basically enough to, certify him as an expert because he had worked in the field. But you do see what they were dealing with, by looking at the interrogation videos, and you do
right,
see at points of time where they were even, it was almost like they were egging on the situation. Well, like, when Woody, was shot at when he had his daughter, and the mother of his daughter with him. And they're like, "You're just gonna let that happen? You know, you're gonna have loyalty over here, and that's just, you're gonna,"
yeah,
and that can amp up someone to do something totally different,
yeah.
or conning them into saying different things. It just, just the whole process on that.
And
It's
tall
the
glass, I agree
tactics
with you.
that are used. It's tactics,
Yes,
the tactics that are used, and then you hear them swearing in there with you. You hear them, doing all these other things, and it's just, crazy because when you do look at, other trials and you watch the interrogation, you do see a professional. Tell me this person's name, tell me where. They don't get all into all the different stuff. And it really seemed like a few of them played both sides.
yeah.
Okay, so they might have been working there, but they also, I think they were also in some way, shape, or form a fan.
And also the behavior of those investigators, like they were trying to reenact, or create a movie scene. That's what I identified watching those interrogation videos. It just didn't seem real.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was real.
Well, yeah, because
Yeah,
those men
it
are
was,
locked up.
yeah,
But
it
it's just
was.
that their tactic that they brought forth to those men, trying to get information, coerce them, and intimidation tactics. And like you said, bring up their family. Of course, everyone's going to go into survival mode. Now, I'm
Yeah,
going to
for
say
their loved ones,
absolutely.
for
And
their loved
that's
ones.
where they are exerting their power of authority. So now they're giving you a statement under false pretenses.
But to me, it's like, how didn't you understand that you had the wildest one that you decided to use? You got the wildest one that you know was not even from the area that they grew up in, and that he is a hothead, and that he, is telling you lies, um, but that you're going to threaten him with time, and you're going to, do all of the above, and they thought they were spinning him, but in reality they were both spinning each other just around the table, and around the table. And you hear it come up. There's no reports. And so that lets you know, too, they weren't very seasoned. Or did you really not have nothing to document, when you were out there having any of these meetings or things like that?
Yeah.
But it is a quick way to get information because you're going to see them again, because you're either calling them in or you're picking them up, or if he was arrested on any allegation, that the interrogation process is going to take a long time because you want whatever he knows, or whatever you think he feel he knows. And this whole time he's thinking about his actions. He's not thinking about what they're doing.
Absolutely.
He's thinking about, I need to get up out of here because I'm not going to Rice Street today. You know, where you even got the man checking his pulse on, you know, on the, it's just everything as a whole, everything as a whole. And so they're not able to take anything he says at face value.
No.
Because he has told them, I made it up. If I told them whatever I had to tell them to get me out of the situation I was in, so they didn't look at me. Any other judge will say, this is it. This is done. You guys don't have anything but this gentleman. And I'm sorry, he did not perform.
Yeah, he's
He
not credible.
performed, but he did not perform on how you thought he would. And none of the other witnesses that have came up have performed the way that you needed to. So at that point, you just have to call it a loss. And if they are who you say they are, you'll see them again. But it will be on individual bases off of their own actions, not grouping everyone together and adding a whole bunch more people on that they don't even know each other.
Jesus.
The defendants that were severed off, there was names that they said that were thrown on, that the attorneys were standing up and said, my client doesn't even know who this is. Like, let's be for real here. And then bringing up social media posts and certain things. Well, they said this, and then it comes out in court. That's a lyric from a whole different rapper. It's like your investigators couldn't figure that out. That is like the first one-on-one thing you would do is if you know you're dealing with a rapper, you're going to look at the lyrics. Apparently you did. You looked at the lyrics because you used the lyrics, some lyrics against them. How did you miss all of those? Because it was conveniently missed.
Absolutely.
It wasn't working. It wasn't to work for to prove a point of it was another lyric of someone else. So it's just really disturbing just to see the whole process as a whole. It's like you can't be serious. And even though he everything was brought on by hearsay in that interrogation room.
Yeah.
Everything was brought on. Yeah, and even when they went off of the 911 calls, they said it was a woman driving, a big-chested woman.
Oh.
And I mean, nobody in that courtroom meets that description at all. So I was just like, okay, this can't even, this cannot be anywhere near the law, constitutional, any of the above. So what are people supposed to do? Not just stay outraged and just talk about it. Obviously, that's why the call of action is taking place. So that way they can see that it is a ton of people. It is a ton of people and everyone is aware. They might not have been aware in May of maybe when the primary was happening, but November is going to be a whole different ballgame.
Right. That's the time voices are needing to be heard. Actions need to be taken at the polls.
It was really bold of Courtney Kramer to come out and put that in the official press release to say this is enough of these taxpayer dollars. Everyone is watching. This is a circus. This is ridiculous at this point. Every law is being broken every single kind of way when it deems to meet whatever the state is trying to prove in furtherance of.
Yeah.
And it's just sad to see it because they're all veterans in there. I can tell you that I would not risk whoever I reported to. I would not risk my job day in, day out to make sure that conviction is made and going against the ethics, the law, and acting as if no one is zeroing in that these things are going to be tolerated and allowed. I don't know. I've never seen a prosecutor go 100% untouched with no remedy for the actions for misrepresenting something. It just happened again. And the lack of
Yeah.
candor. I've never seen I never seen where the win becomes that important that you forget these things. But then you look at previous cases that they were a part of, and it's sad to see, and it's even sad to see their behavior in the courtroom as veteran prosecutors. They roll their eyes, they yell, they look at each other. At one time, they were tussling over the microphone. You could see the disconnect, and the Mr. Atkins in the middle. He's like in the middle of a war zone sometimes, passing notes back and forth, throwing them at him. Here, you tell her this, and so I don't have to reach into her. You could tell that there's friction, or when one's trying to explain, they will, you know, whisper, no, 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 this, and it causes stuttering and a pause. And it's like, you guys all should be able to speak on a topic individually without someone stopping. When it needs that much guidance for every single response, that's what raises the eyebrow.
Yeah.
I don't have a doubt in my mind. If you're seasoned there, and everyone, your two partners sitting aside of you are seasoned, and one of them is your chief, there's no reason for that to happen.
It seems as if that pause comes in when they know that Love is trying to make a story and stick to that and have everyone else that's beside her to agree with what she's saying, although the information she's trying to present is false.
To play devil's advocate for a minute, though, and I don't know how the people are going to feel about this, so I'm gonna just put it out there, because I don't do personal feelings. I just go off of what I see, and I'm not going to interject my feelings into it. But Hilton displays the same thing, just in a different manner. And what I know a lot of people does focus on Love because it's been a lot more prominent. Um, but I look at it, they are the same coin.
Absolutely.
One is head, one is tails. And that's just what it is. Some of the actions that you have seen with her, and some of the things that you have brought out, has been not acceptable either, though. And I think that it's overshadowed by her chief. So hers is not displayed as much as because she is advocating better, I should say, as a professional than Love is. Love is not good at lying. You can tell
No.
when she is. You can tell that skill. She just kind of says it, but you could tell through her mannerism
Hmm.
and how she speaks.
Right.
But they don't need to help each other that much on every single response, because you guys are doing the case together. You guys know exactly what you discussed. You know exactly what evidence it is. You guys both have access to it. You guys have been in trial together from the start. So needing that much back and forth just to answer something is very questionable, because when you look at the defense, they don't look at their co-counsel to get the words or to retract or to add to. They're fully able to stand up and advocate.
Hmm.
And the other one will either add something in when they're finished, if like it's something really majorly important, but you don't see it that way. And so it's disturbing to see that. And every time Love this week that I have seen when she has stood up to try to explain, and especially today, you can see Hilton right away turn her head and say tons of things. And then she's paused and then she's, well, Judge, and then she's trying to hear what she's saying as well. And there's
Beautiful
no
one.
difference in explanation.
Right. But I agree with Beautiful One. Love is trying to adapt in or take on the same personality as Whitaker. She's trying to build that rapport with her and have her align with whatever information or misinformation that's being presented. And it appears to have an effect, although Whitaker displays as if she is upset with their inability to have all of the evidence that she requested on particular days. But once Love does that little, again, I want to say nervous tick laughing because I don't know. But once she starts to do that, or Whitaker does that, they will both mirror each other as if it's okay to suffice each other for the inabilities of the state to adhere to what Whitaker is needing.
Yeah, and then so far as like the law, the argument that Love or Hilton lost, when the judge, she had said, "Well, Judge, I argue that," and she said, "I know what you're doing." She was like, "That's my ruling,"
Mm-hmm.
and you heard her say, "Okay, thank you." With Glanville, that didn't happen. They would keep on going, and if they needed to revisit a second time, they did. And that's just, yeah, exactly. Todd Glass, use words as unartful.
Yes.
And, those are just things like as the judge has to, come down to reality at some point. The deadlines were not adhered to. Nothing has happened. Lack of candor to the court again, nothing happened. Misrepresentation to the court, nothing happened. Um, Unartful motions that said wasn't argued before, and actually they were several times prior that were on the record. That's a candor issue. So all of those things that you look at and say, okay, why is that okay? Or how can that be okay? So you're the referee here. And at no point of time should you ever be filling in their sentences when they're stuck. If you ask them for an explanation, it's not for you to say, are you using it for this? Or do you think you're going to take out this and put it as that? You've given them the roadmap for that piece of evidence or piece of whatever you have at that moment.
And for Love to even say, thank you, Judge, that's what I meant. Right there, that tells you that that is not what she meant. She was
Yeah.
just allowing Whitaker to fill in that statement to make it connect.
It's it's really interesting to see. John says, is it that nothing is happening or that we will see the effects of things being late as what gets admitted into evidence or not? No, it's been coming in late. It's been allowed to be heard.
Right.
Um, that's just what it is. Tall
Absolutely.
glass, yes. Harvey using Gladys's Knight's analog was wild. Um,
And then he
it,
said somebody was a pimp.
yeah, yeah. That he
I
said
said,
his
"What a
client.
minute. I didn't know if it was a pimp."
No, he said a pip.
I know, but it sounded like he said pimp. I'm like,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
no. When he said my client is a pip, and I was like, that's kind of embarrassing too, because I would have been like, I know nobody wants to say, yeah, my client's the man or whatever, but I'm like, dang, you didn't have to do me like that. This, I am on TV. You're saying I'm a pip. Like, yeah, that's not okay. So it's just looking at, all of these things that are happening and going back and really, looking at every single aspect of it, and everyone is shocked.
Yes.
Yes, John, you are exactly right. Apparently, Rodalius was lost with that comment. Definitely too young. He's
I know his
Yeah,
face.
it's definitely not his error. He was like, I don't even know what is happening right now, but maybe he knows Gladys Knight from Grandma or something. But the rest of it was definitely Harvey definitely brought his age with that one. It was classic. It was a good John says, I'm only 32 and I got it. Yeah, but you got to think, I think Rodalius is like 19. So very, very big difference.
Yeah,
But
it was.
that it
That's
was funny. What was funnier, the defendants didn't move looking like what he's talking about. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, the call kind of put it into perspective. Nobody there is a leader. That was mentioned on the call. So that was actually, goes to prove further that,
He is young, and that's
yeah,
unfortunate.
he's very young. I remember seeing the first time when he came on the screen. I was just, really, really
How
shocked.
old is he?
I believe, and I don't want to misquote it, but I believe they said like he just had his 19th birthday.
Oh my.
If someone knows his exact age, if you can drop it in the chat for us, please. I believe it was 19, if I wasn't mistaken. That ranked up there with Weinstein talking the ears off a donkey. Yeah, when he was like at some point, Judge, the filibustering has got to stop. The state can talk the ears off a donkey. I was like, Weinstein
Oh,
had
he
had
was
it that day.
16. He was
Yeah,
16 when he went to jail. So, oh, he's 19. I cannot imagine my son being locked up.
and you have to remember he's already serving a life sentence.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's already serving a life sentence. So I know that there is something that is going on with that, and I'm not sure if it has gotten all the way situated or what they have to do with that. I do have to get a little bit more information on that. Um, Toglass says, at this point, I'm living for Weinstein's brief. So serious. I really love his motions, though. His motions are very particular. They're very to the point,
Right.
and I think that it raises really, really good discussion. And one thing my partner and I did notice was the weariness of the attorneys, and we did write a letter for the attorneys because we did see it, and we did want to basically recognize the efforts that they have. It's a lot to be in there every single day and go through what you're going through and have all of um,
He was
the
15.
things that have happened and go on. And that is like this. The saddest point is watching their faces every single day and watching how they are truly, truly, this trial is wearing on all of them. And I know, they say we're not, when Steele said, we're not, what do you say? I'm not weary, Judge. I'm fine, or something along that. But everyone knows that it's mentally draining, and then you have to deal with those things, and you have to remember that he probably has it in the front of his brain. I
Right.
can't advocate too hard because I don't want to be placed back in cuffs, but now he's in front of a different judge. But it seems like the old patterns that they just got out of is now coming in here. And I think Steele touched on that best when he said, we are being, the previous courts had handcuffed us.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a big statement, because that's exactly what they did. I've never seen a defense attorneys be limited to, and he couldn't even cross-exam Agent Racy, and I believe it was like two others. And so that's sad. So we did do a letter to them. If you guys want us to share it, let us know, and we can share it with you guys. Words of encouragement. That's cool. Tall glass. That's exactly what it was. We're working hard on our end to do our part, and we recognize the efforts that they have on there. Says, boy, those attorneys may have PTSD from Glanville. Absolutely. There was handcuffs that happened when you have to bring a motion forth in good faith on behalf of your client.
And that's something that happened figuratively and physically.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the whole reason why we did the letter. And basically it was 3 paragraphs, and basically just touched on what we see. So if you guys want to hear it, we can do that for you guys. And see how Glanville has the spirit of PTSD. Yeah, and he's a vet.
Yeah.
He's been serving the country for many, many years, and I feel like that's a bad thing as well, though. I feel like that's a bad thing as well,
I do too, because
because
some of those people
he's
that are in,
already, yeah. It's a bad thing to have a side, to be a judge on this side and have the responsibility and the ethic the same as on the other side. But obviously, military for that many, like 30 years is mentally a lot. Judges hold a lot mentally. There was a study like 7 years ago on suicide with judges, and they were saying because at some point of time in their life, they weigh on some of the harsher sentences that they have given ones that maybe they shouldn't have been that harsh, and they seek a lot of outside resources for that. So a lot of people don't look at all sides of it,
yeah,
because ultimately they have lives in their hands every single day that they go to work, and that is a huge responsibility. And when you're being zeroed in on and you have a video on you, it is a whole different ball game. That weight becomes a lot more heavier to carry, no matter who you are. And so when you see those type of things, you say, okay, I think it's fair that he retires, because at this point in time, with this case, as Steele said, he doesn't know what happened here. But, he can be exhausted. There's a lot going on with the county. His first year in seat as a chief judge, and you have news channels coming in to have one-on-ones with you about the conditions and what is happening in the county. It's a lot.
yeah, you have to be prepared with those solutions when you have those problems.
Yeah. So, people have to learn that even with unacceptable things, like, yeah, he's off now. And yes, he was not going to take himself off. He was not going to remove himself. He was not. But I think at some point he would have, because you could see him declining in different aspects. Um, his patience was, his health, he was coughing all the time into the microphone, constantly, constantly, constantly. So you just look at all those things and you look at, his history, his background, and what he's gone through. It says, look how much he had to leave the court for comfort breaks. Exactly. And the dog was signaling that, and the dog is trained to him. So I did bring that up as a talking point before, to say, that's a little bit scary, because when things get heavy in that courtroom, the dog was, you could hear his bells ringing around his neck, jingling, whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
And that lets like, obviously a break has to happen, but you do feel bad, because at some point in his life, he signed up to do the right thing on both sides, through military and through trying to honor the justice system. So is it right for everyone as a whole to just tear them, bash them all the way down? No, that's probably not right, because everybody makes mistakes. Here, they're a lot more critical, because you have lives in your hands and they're in a balance. So it's going to be a lot heavier than just a regular Joe on the street that has that. So
Absolutely.
there's a way different accountability, but I think that as humans, we have to look at it always. But he just refused to give it up. I mean, even the certificate of reviews, his patience was wearing very, very thin, very short. And now you see that with Whitaker. She came in strict, laying the law down, and everyone exploded. Finally, finally, finally. But then you see the same things happening. And do you honestly think, because it's so complex and how much the state has thrown in extra, that really, as seasoned professionals, this should have been gone through beforehand and already been X'd out and been presented and ready to go, and actually have the discovery turned over 10 days before trial? And, everyone was ready to sufficiently have a day after day successful court hearings. And the jury's not out for months and weeks and days, and trying to reel that all back in. So, you have to look at it every single way and be able to remove your emotion and say what truly went wrong here. We
Absolutely.
don't want to beat them up about what is happening, because how is it happening? Who is making this happen, and who's ordering for you to? And if you're a judge and you have these things going on that we're seeing now, do you think Whitaker's losing track of everything because of how much stuff that is being introduced every day? There's no order here. Everything is out of order. They bounce from one thing to another thing and then kick it down the road. And then when they get back to it, they're trying to remember, what they touched on there. It's just a very complex case, and I get it. It's a lot of stuff that they threw, but I just had higher expectations for seasoned veterans to know what won't stick and what shouldn't, and what's hearsay and what's intrinsic, what's not, and have all of these things already done, and to be able to 100% remove their speculation and what their thought process is, because the law doesn't allow us to speculate or have our own opinion on it. The law only has us to present the facts
Absolutely. And
and the evidence.
when they deconstruct the prosecutors' um, information that they had presented, they would see that this no longer is a case of RICO. This is
Yeah.
just a case based upon whatever facts that you have in regards to whatever defendant you can place that on.
And you have to remember that a lot of these overt acts that you're hearing saying, well, this was done in furtherance of, and all the things that are on there are, outside of the statutory of limitations and look like individual charges that have
Right.
already been taken care of, that were nowhere in sight combined in furtherance of anything at that time. So even coming back and adding all of this, it just shows we're going to throw everything into a pot. We're going to boil it and we're going to steer it and we're going to see where it's at, because you have a lot of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of this, and nothing is really connecting or making sense. They can't say who was in the vehicle. They can't say who fired the shot. They can't say if this person had a photo. They can't say this person seen the face. All of those things, like there's none of it. There's none
Yeah.
of it. And so you got to look at the facts.
Right. And then, like, with all the intrinsic information that she's bringing forth, it's not even proximity in regards to the indictment.
Yeah.
Like, you're charging someone of from an action that they had done 15 or like 6 years ago. And that was prior to the indictment.
Yeah, I could see a big win for Atlanta. I could see a big win for Atlanta if she actually used the resources of the individuals that have, any famous status there to work with the youth and to have a
Yeah.
program there. There's so many ways that could have been integrated to even target the areas that they say that need to be targeted and everything else. I mean, there could have been a great win with that by itself, and it would have been a huge give back and contribution to society there to make it better.
Mhm.
And especially if they have not been before you um, for any trouble or any of that, and it's you're reaching that far back, and it's just not valuable for today in the now and what is happening in the now, because it's way worse now. We're in way worse conditions as a whole everywhere right now, with inflation, with the cost of everything. And then you have a lot of places that are struggling higher. You have crime rate higher. And you have now all these different break off gangs from younger generations that their names don't even make sense, that it's not the typical Crips, Bloods, Kings, that just the different ones that you hear as going back in the day. There was only like five. And if you weren't one of those five, now you have all these little branch off that are 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds, that the name is just totally off the wall and it doesn't make sense. So you look at where you're at in the now as the society, and then you look at the crime numbers and you see how high they have skyrocketed, and you say, this is way more important than what you're reaching back for. You have to reach these youth that are turning the wrong way and implement some programs for them and be
Right.
able to redirect them. Yes, there is a program that I did hear in an interview that the DA had is a part of, that anyone that works with the school, that anyone is on the target or headed towards that way, there's a program, but it's a very small program and it's not offered to every school and it's not offered to every inner city kid. It's like something that's up and in the making. So why not use the resources if you have all these gentlemen and this is not a great case and the evidence is not there? Why wouldn't you work with them to work with the community that you want to serve?
Yeah.
Because he's a highly respected individual in that community. He has fans nationwide and he has fans out of country everywhere. So his voice makes a difference, and anyone that he would bring and add value to that can help. So it's like you want to look at the solution for them as well to say, look, somebody has to, talk. You don't have to have this under your belt for an election, and you don't have to have this under your belt for the first term to secure a second term. But what you do have to have under your belt is morals and ethics.
Yeah, they have to
You know,
have
you
moral
you
and
have you
ethics.
have to, you're held at a higher standard because of the position. And all of the things that have come into light that has put a fog over it already. And then these RICO cases and the differential between the two RICOs that were on the same plateau and very different treatment shows what's happening right within there. That is the uproar.
Yeah.
And it's like you got to reach one and teach one.
Absolutely. And the way that they do that is they can only reach a child on a child's level. Um, and that also,
And it's not going to be from a woman in a suit.
right.
I'm
And
sorry.
when they're reaching this child on the child level, that's also when it comes to discipline. How are you going to discipline this child? You can't always say, hey, if you do this, you're going to go to jail. Like, give them constructive ideas to work with. Kids, and it's not funny, but I was talking to my son about the Gen Z, that they are so tech savvy, but they still don't want to think for themselves. And it's a scary time that we're in. Like, kids, they are able to innovate things. And that's where we as a community need to come in and say, what are you interested in? What do you see for yourselves? And when they don't have a vision, that's where we have to help them design and create one, so they don't have to end up in Fulton County, or
Yeah,
they
I mean,
don't have to end up in the prison.
tech savvy is that doesn't even hit the icing, because they are all this younger generation is very tech savvy.
Absolutely.
My son, I can just tell you, just one time I cut off his phone. Um, he had his report card that came in, and one of the grades didn't make it. And that was, I cut off his phone, and that's just what it was until it went back up, and his phone was going to get cut back on once that phone went up. I had also cut off the Wi Fi because I have actually the chips that can go into my laptop, my computer, whatever else. So I didn't need it for really in the house. So I took that, so that way he couldn't use the Wi-Fi to still use the phone. Well, I don't know what he did with that phone, but that phone was fully functioning the next morning.
Hmm.
Without Wi-Fi and without, I had to call everyone I knew to see how he did that. And there was like, oh, there's this app that you can use and you don't even need either. And I'm like, you know what? Who would have thought?
Yeah, kids
Who
are
would have
amazing.
thought? So, they are very smart on the technical side. Get those technical programs up, teach them about computers, teach them about technology. IT tech is skyrocketing. It's rising. The social media, teach them how to get into the AI stuff. Just different things bring to them, but they're not gonna understand it from a lady in a suit. They're going to understand it from someone that they idolize and look up to. And so that would have been a perfect opportunity, to
Yeah,
use these men to give back to the
to the
community
community. Yes,
and to be able to work with that youth. And if you want to call that the sentence, make it a sentence,
yes.
because it's going to make everyone grow as a person. And also, your community is going to value you a lot more,
Mhm.
um, because when you put out the message, if you come to my county and you do this, you're getting locked up there. Well, everyone knows the condition there.
Yeah,
And
that's
when you say, if you come here, we are going to prosecute you to the fullest extent. If
yes.
you have a gang background or you are affiliated, those are very intimidating tactics, because sometimes as a young adult, you can just make one wrong choice. That should not end you because you came in with a stigma. And so that is the whole thing is, that type of prosecution just is not successful. And it does not meet that. What ends up happening, they become targets of hate speeches and all of that. And I think that is what has been spewing consistently all around. And so I wait day after day for the prosecution team to come in and cancel it out and dismiss it. But I think that they look at it, whatever the jury thinks, we're going to take it all the way to the jury, and it doesn't matter, even though with all of the things that have gone on. You wait for someone at some point to make a reasonable, logical decision, and then they look at the taxpayer dollars and understand why, and look at the crime rate, and look at the inflation, and look how the nation is as a whole right now, and the city, and that's a pretty large city, how it is as a whole right now, and how can you get a better grasp on that? It says it's sad because the money was given for the kids and they didn't receive it. Exactly. It was for it was for the youth. And that is sad. Because that's exactly, where they need the most guidance at. And there is a lot of broken families, a lot of broken homes out there. And let's just be honest, that's a requirement of the government. When you have government assistance, you cannot have a man in the home. You don't qualify. And
unfortunately,
it's
that
sad,
was
and it's
brought
been
into,
like that.
yeah, post the war.
Back in the day, they would knock on the door and they would check to see if a man was on the home in order for you to receive your assistance. And that is still the same requirement. It is not pro-family as it is broadcasted all over the place. It's not.
And that's where you
Because
got the decline of families, especially Black families.
it's broken.
Absolutely.
It's a broken system. It's a broken system. It shouldn't matter if a father in the home should be encouraged, not have it as a requirement for the state assistance. They will give a single mother um, food stamps. They will give medical card, and automatically, if you receive those, they take the father to court because now they want to
Child
start receiving
support.
some of that money back. And that's a requirement, even if the father's helping. But since mom signed up for assistance, you're automatically forced on. But dad could be doing everything that he can. They have a split schedule, close at mom's house, close at dad's house, child goes in between. But mom had to get assistance because she has to help provide, because she has maybe 2 3 other children. And no father could be in the home, no man can be in the home, because you're not going to qualify.
And that's a break in the structure of the family dynamic right there.
So when you hear the elections going on right now and you hear, we're for family and we fight for family, it's like, okay, but let's really talk about the law and what the requirements are when you fill out these things, because they don't go hand in hand with that speech. So, if it's the technicality of it, anybody can hear what they want to hear because it sounds good to them at that moment. But you have to look at what has already occurred and what the law says and what the requirement is in order to get those things.
It's always in that fine print where you see it's not for you. It's going to be against family.
Yeah. So, and that should never be a requirement. That should never be a requirement. Should be an encouragement, because the same way moms need help, dads need help the same way.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be the mother. So if the mother and the father are separate and the child is 50-50, how come the father's not eligible?
Mm-hmm.
If he has that child, how come he can't receive the state assistance or state benefits? Because only one of them can. And so it's just sad. It's just sad to watch all of it, and how the laws, um, and what you hear for the election is the pick me, pick me, pick me. And then the convention was going on today. Um, I think a lot of performances that were brought forward, a lot of people were tuned in strictly for the performances. Um, because the message was pro family, pro family, pro family. No one was really tuning in for nothing else. So it really stowed the show um, for performance.
Yeah. I find myself disconnecting from that. I can no longer engage because it's making a mockery out of people.
Yeah, I had to tune in to see what was said. I'm always very interested in what you always hear people say. They don't vote because when they get into seat, they're going to do what they want to anyway.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have that belief. But I always say, if you're stuck and torn on, are you truly a Democrat? Are you truly a Republican? Or
Are you a
um,
liberal?
are you a liberal? And I always tell people, be informed, read about previously how it came into place, what laws went in, what was passed. And so that way you can make an informed decision. And I think that is where America was unwrapped. I'm going to be honest with you. From the area that I was raised in a lower income, very bad neighborhood, high crime city. It was believed, quote unquote, in the hood, everybody was a Democrat, and that's what you had to be. I never knew anything about a Republican. When I was younger, you didn't hear those terms, you didn't hear that around the area, and I said, well, why is it like that? I couldn't understand it. And then when I got older and I got interested and I started really reading into laws and I started joining different organizations and getting involved and, grow up to have my own, I had to look to say, wow, I was definitely misguided off of environment, just off of environment. I'm not stuck on, I'm not stuck on that environment anymore. So I'm able to read on my own and teach on my own and do all those things. But I just hate that when it comes down to election time, race is at the forefront. And it's to always overshadow what is exactly happening behind. And I think that education needs to happen a lot more and a lot heavier, so that way it's within the communities that we come from, because we don't know the actual truth of both sides and how it should be, all sides. And I didn't have a lot of people will tell you, I voted because such and such told me to, or I voted because that's what I seen in my community. And unfortunately, I was one of those ones when I first received my voting rights when I became of age. I didn't know. I didn't know. I'm going to tell you how, when they probably read my ballot, they were probably like, well, what is she? I don't know. Because I only knew 2 names on there of who the presidential, all the names underneath on the ballot that you have to vote on. I had no clue who they were. I was doing any, mini, miny, mo. I didn't know. Nobody educated me. There was no education places within my community that was telling me about each side. I didn't know what it consists of. I didn't know what the process was. I didn't know any of that. I was not informed. And so that's why it's always so important for me to inform. I don't want to make the decision for you. I just want to make sure that you have all the information to make your best informed decision that you can make as a citizen. It is not to persuade you one side or the other. As long as you made an informed decision, that is my goal. Says my vote is now a business transaction. Amen. I didn't know either. I was trying to open my family's eyes. Beautiful one says, right, I have voted the party that I only knew. That's
Mhm.
exactly right. I mean, beautiful one says, yes, back in the days, it was only a woman in the home, public assistance, and some women were struggling with crack addiction. Absolutely. They knocked on the doors to ensure the father or a man was not in the home.
Mhm.
And you just can't imagine those things. And then when you see fight pro family and they rip each other apart during election, and I can't respect that on either, because I wish that the personal attacks will go away and you strictly stick to exactly what is going to be done and when. And this election here, we have just seen tearing down. Um, Tonight, when they got out and they were speaking, I said, you just want to hear more. You want to hear more of exactly what's happening. You want to know, as what we're living in with all these inflations, how is this going to get better for all of the people? There's so many people over the past couple years that have, COVID has really damaged our nation, but
Mhm.
also trying to recover from that. Then you go directly into inflation. People have lost homes, people have lost jobs, people have lost their cars. People cannot get house loans. They cannot get car loans. Everything's at an all-time high. You can go into the grocery store at $500 and come out with 2 bags,
And
3 bags.
that's what's causing the society to be in emotional disturbance. It's a
Yeah.
chaotic. There's no structures, there's no help. And again, that's why I always say whenever you're going to vote, you have to not think of it from the pathos level. And that's why when I watch these debates, either from the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, I don't allow them to appeal to my pathos, because I don't need you to try to attach to me emotionally. My ethos, I want to know, hey, what are you going to do for me and the community? What are you going to do to help my family grow? How are you going to help me help them to become better citizens? Like, I get that there is war going on, but how are you going to help the United States? And I'm always looking for a game plan. I want the solutions. We already identified the problems. Come to me with the solution. And what I see, like I said, the reason why I wasn't watching the Democratic, because they want to bring on entertainers. I don't want to be entertained unless you're going to sing to me your game of actions. If throughout the lyrics that someone is singing, I'm with it. If you're going to tell me how are we going to decrease inflation, how are we going to make sure we have enough money in the homes for the families? How are you going to put money in those people's pockets who have visions and want to start a business? How are you going to help those that want to go to school become educated? This is everything I'm looking for. And if you can't give me that, I can't give you my attention.
The vote.
Right. Whoa, yeah, my vote. But I mean,
Mhm.
to sit there and have
Oh,
you
you should be able to watch.
automatically
Mhm.
have you audibly in my ear taking up my space. No, I want to take whatever information I can somewhere else, internalize what they have to present for me in regards to a solution. That's where I want to be.
I look at both sides. Like I have to listen to all of it. That's just me and personality. It's like
Right.
I always have to know each side to everything, even when something is like wrong and it looks like, you know, by just looking at the action, it looks like someone is totally wrong. And you have to look at all aspects because there's always another side to it. So I always try to be mindful of that. And I say, as long as I'm not here to say go Democrat and I'm not here to say
Right.
go Republican
Right.
or go liberal. I'm here to say be informed and read and really catch yourself up. And then when you make your decision and it's an informed one, you'll feel better, number 1, and you'll have a different outlook to know what it is.
Absolutely. And
And
I'm
that's
agreeing with exactly what you say. Just
mhm,
don't let it be on an emotional level.
mhm. And that's the thing. Moms why it's so important for the youth to have, a place to go and to have, somewhere that they can go after school and have a program or have more sports that are paid and funding that is helped by the city to be able to keep them off the streets because in society right now, mom is at work all day,
All day.
unfortunately.
All
And, they have to kids have to go home and, mom is trying to make a living just to try to get a little bit of food on the table. But where we're at on times is they're seeing that, everything is not the same for them anymore. What's different? Just the prices in the community, nothing else has changed.
Mhm.
So the inflation has affected everyone as a whole, but you have to think of um, the lower end of it, and you have to think of inner city, and you have to think of low income. I was there. I was there. I know exactly how that feels, and I know exactly how that feels to have children in that and try to come out of that and work as hard as you can. And it's just, it's got to get to a place where it has to get better. Everybody deserves a change. Everyone deserves change. Thank you, Ayana says, love Shane Kendo shows. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, we had to touch a lot of base on that tonight. We were going to do all of the voter information and bring a guest on for you tonight. And we decided to speak on it since the last 3 days. We have been seeing all the evidence in court that has been presented. We have been waiting for all this evidence to be brought in. And with all the evidence that has just now been brought in, we wanted to touch base on everything that we have been seeing because we all been waiting for this. This is what was kicked down the road when it was touched on earlier with Glanville. So now seeing that these things come to light and seeing that it truly was nothing of substance and almost everything had been let in. So it's very interesting to see this dynamic. So it lets us know that our fight is going to be really, really hard, really, really hard. But we know that, um, we're fighting to make sure that we rock the vote, the call of action, and make sure that we are doing the right thing, boots on ground, to be able to, to be out there to advocate and have the proper procedures and the proper oversight happen and be able to weed through all of these inner personal backhanded relationships that are happening and keeping hands tied, and it's really handcuffing the courts and the judicial system as a whole. And it's pretty bad when you have neighboring district attorneys speaking out on it, and you have, the commissioner making statements, and you have all of those things happening. You can really see everything in a disarray wholeheartedly. So it it matters, and very, very, very important, to say the least, to be able to get out there and get involved any way that you can. If you don't, I always say, if you can't help be part of the resolution, you really can't complain about the problem. And that just kind of goes hand in hand, because our cries don't go nowhere if we don't put action behind them. And not everybody is set up to go fight that way. And we recognize that. We do. Says yesterday in court, it was mentioned to the judge about pleas for other defendants. Did anyone catch that? Yes, Candy, you did talk about that. That part Candy did touch on yesterday with the pleas, or we talked about it yesterday. I don't believe it went on the end of the video just for a second. Yes. What I didn't catch is, did they allow it in? That was the part. Let's see. Do you know, beautiful one, if they allowed them to be read only, or how was that ruled upon, or was it pushed off? I don't see that one. Says, I'm sorry, hello as well. No worries. Hello. I think she's typing. Says the entertainment must be smoke. Yeah, that is so true. So true. We see all these different things happening. I remember when it was up, I had got a phone call as soon as they were talking about the pleas that were already taken, the ones that are off. But it was the understanding that those cannot come back in, or should not be read, or be a part of the case. So it's going to be really interesting to see tomorrow, exactly, what part is going to be, what's going to be allowed at that point, tomorrow, and what else is going to come in, and if we're going to hear the judge pick up the extension of the sentencing to finish, and then that be the answer. And a lot of people may disagree and say, well, it's law. Everyone knows it's either going to be this or that, but that is not true. Because as you see, the answer wasn't there. The explanation wasn't there. So, it's just, what we're seeing now is different. Says it seems like the judge didn't like it. It was pushed off. Oh, okay, so it wasn't. I thought I don't know why I thought she was gonna allow it to be read, or something to the effect that she said. It was something to that effect. I can't remember exactly what she was saying for it. They're talking about the pleas yesterday when they wanted to read them in.
Yeah, she did what she usually does and dismiss it. Whitaker doesn't. Yeah. Let's see. What court cases are we talking about? It seems like the judge didn't. Yeah, Whitaker, she usually doesn't like, in my opinion, she doesn't like a lot of things that the defense are saying. Even though they make valid arguments, they are requesting what is right in regards to the Constitution, but she's just not wanting to hear it. Um, I tried to find it. There's been so many times both JL and myself had to keep rewinding the trial because everything that was being stated, it was just like, was not making sense. Even again, like we were speaking in regards to love, allowing the let's see, I have to look at all my notes again. Trying to allow evidence in and it's being disregarded by Whitaker. Although Whitaker is stating, I'm going to give you a chance to go ahead and find out more evidence, and or she's going to go ahead and complete her statement in regards to whatever Love tries to complete. And it's always, in my opinion, falsification in regards to the evidence that she's trying to present. And yes, it is the YSL trial. I'm sorry I didn't answer that because I just assumed you already knew what trial it was.
Yeah, she came in. I just had seen you. Hi, Ayana. I'm sorry. I seen you come in, just a few. We're kind of just speaking on it today. We didn't do our voting stuff today as we discussed yesterday. So that's probably why you're a little bit confused. We decided to speak on it because it's been 3 days of the evidence that everyone has kind of been anticipating, that has been coming in to see what was going to be done with that. And all the things that have been pushed back from Glanville, we're here at it now. And looks like she was doing the same thing, letting it in. Lyrics were let in today. Again. And how many professionals that you have weighing in on this case is insane. Says, I have to find it. Whitaker's reaction kind of stood out. Yeah. A lot of people are now zeroing in on it. I know it's a big difference. I had someone tell me, and I never thought that I would hear it, to say, I actually had faith in her from previous rulings that she has had in cases that she has had. But they said it seems like no matter who it is in seat, that when they get on this trial, something changes. And I'm noticing that the same standards that were put down in the very beginning, they are not adhered to. And there is no reprimand for that. Ayanna said, where's the reports? I don't know. We need to ask Matt Shart that, because that is his line. Where are the reports? That's his biggest thing. There are no reports. And that's scary. It kind of seems like this is a chain reaction. There's no reports from investigators, gang investigators that are investigating. They don't write documents. It seems like jail incidents, there's not documents. Just documentation as a whole. I think I would make that a primary focus on the county, to say, hey, we need to go back to do some one-on-one training on documentation. Everybody knows as a professional, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So you can say you talk to someone all day, but I'm sorry, if you don't have something that coincides with that, you have to go and take it at face value. It didn't happen. Says, how does any of it prove RICO? No wonder Paul Howard didn't take the case. Yeah, it's not. It's old individual acts of others and kind of intertwined others that they don't even know each other. And honestly, it's pretty sad to say when you heard some of the witnesses take the stand because they come from the same neighborhood that they grew up in and use that against them. It's like, you are really punishing of where they come from. They cannot help the neighborhood that they were raised in. They have no control over that. No control over that. No control over that. So you have to remember, Jeffrey has been famous since he was 14 years old. 14 was his first deal. So his studio time was definitely had to be immaculate hour after hour because of how much music was produced at such a young age, all the way up. And you look at that, and then you look at them being criticized for the area that they're in because they say, well, it's known for this gang and it's known in this area. That is their childhood area that they grew up in. All these old photos you see, every single one of them have baby faces. To where a couple of them, I really didn't even recognize it was them because now, you look at them, they're adult men now. So many years fast forward, they don't even look like the same individuals. I mean, who wasn't young and rambunctious? Everybody has a story. But you can't punish them or criticize or use against them of the area that they were raised in and that they lived. That is not within their control. And the sad thing is using social media, and I know that it does help solve a lot of crimes, and that's the first thing that they go to. But in this case, that's not even how it's presented. The product of their environment is what is being used, and that's sad. They didn't pay the money to go live there. They didn't make the decision to live there. Unfortunately, that was, my case too. I lived in a very bad neighborhood. I lived in a very bad neighborhood. It was what it was. And you just can't hold it against them the way that you are. And you're seeing them almost be, well, not almost, it's character assassination by half of this stuff too. It prejudicial to the jury to be able to see that kind of stuff. So it's just no point in it because it does not prove anything but where they come from. And that's not a crime to live in a low income area. And unfortunately, when you don't have the programs out there or the assistance, then you become a product of your environment. And you hanging in a group is not illegal, and you being in a gang is not illegal. Unfortunately, those aren't illegal acts. But when you go commit something, but you can't bring a whole bunch of people together and say, oh, well, this is in furtherance of, he stole something 10 years ago from this person and it was in furtherance of. But the connections of when they met and what part of life different ones of them met, that matters too. And that's not how they weeded through that. I mean, let's be honest, we have tweets that are in evidence right now that are actually lyrics of someone else. That is usually, I mean, that is literally, not usually, I apologize. It's literally being used against them in the weight of the evidence. The jurors will hear it. And so when you use that, that's right, Ayana, use calls, videos, social media to build case. That's today's society. But back all those years ago, that wasn't really too much the case. You had to go out there. And everybody knows rap culture. Anybody that truly knows rap culture is when you have a single that's about to drop or an album about to drop, the label, head honcho CEOs creates fake beef. It's literally set up with the other label. So that way the citizens weigh in on the quote unquote beef and think that it's totally real. But if you really look at it within a 4-week span, either a new single is coming out or a new album is coming out. It is great marketing. And unfortunately, that's not the most positive way. But in today's society, they know that that's what brings them in first. It's not going to be through something positive. It's not going to be through, anything that's doing the real work. It's going to be off of the negativity first, because unfortunately, that is what society gravitates to. Oh, did you see this rapper's doing this with this rapper? And then you start looking them up. Oh, they got a song that's about to drop. Let me see what it says in there. Okay, that doesn't prove anything, but your CEOs are great marketing artists, scam artists, because they're making a lot of money off of that. And as you see, every single time, nothing happens to either side. And that goes to show that it is pure marketing. It blew my mind when I learned this years ago. I learned it years ago with a CEO on a label that said, "Oh, that's not real." I was like, "What do you mean? That's not real." We did that. We got an album dropping. And sure enough, I mean, it blew up instantly. It blew up instantly because that's what society wants to see. They want to see that. They want to see the drama. They want to see the fight. They want to see the dramatic. How many videos have you guys seen of someone hurt or in need? There was just in my city a young gentleman, young teen that was shot in his head, and everyone recorded him. And he was literally laying there and he was bleeding out, and people brought out their phones and they were recording it and snapping pictures. Not one person rendered aid. Not one person applied pressure. Not one person stepped in and did anything, but they were chanting at him to fight it and to get up. And you see him trying to get up and he's sliding and falling back down. It was the saddest thing to see. In exact words, it said, "Fight that, bro, fight that, get up, bro. You can't let that win. You're stronger than that. Get up, get up." And trying to get to his knees and kept on sliding down. Head is just profusely bleeding. But that's where we are in a society. There was no thought to help him. There's no thought to render aid. There was no, some of the individuals were not even bothered in the video. They were still continually doing what they were doing before it happened. It was just such a disturbing. Yes, John, the same as wrestling. Same as wrestling. And so you look at that and you say, well, that's why rap beefs are made. They're made purposely. It is a great marketing tool. It is the best marketing tool, and CEOs use it every day. And so do reps inside the labels. They actually pair up ones that actually have backdoor relationships and know each other through studio time or through prior collaborations or future collaborations that they already have scheduled, where they meet with both of the artists to create it. Yeah, not everything is real. And that's the thing. You have some that will come right out and hate each other. And, it could be, it could be a situation because you've seen, two of them make up online before. I won't put them out there, but I'm saying it is a marketing. And John, yes, it is just like wrestling. Think of how much they promoted back in the day, Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior against each other. Same thing. And they said in real life, they're like brothers. How odd. Because I thought when I was younger, my brother was a wrestling fan and used to DDT me and um, clothesline me, all of that, all of the above. It I thought it was the realest thing happening. I've been to a wrestling match when I was young, and being up close, you just really thought it was the real thing. And I look at it now like, oh my God, they didn't even make contact. So it's so night and day. Watching it. It says, yes, lyrics that another artist wrote and Jeff performed. Yes, that's exactly right. Says, I wonder if there's any other named in his song credits. Yep. Beautiful one. It is our new world. It's the phone. As long as you're recording, as long as you're showing the world what you got and you can display it, then that's what matters. And at some point, someone has to weigh in on reality here. Someone has to weigh in on reality. If they are who you truly say you are, you will see them again. You do not need to falsify anything here. You do not need to exaggerate anything. You don't have to throw everything on the ceiling like a pot of spaghetti noodles to see what sticks and what falls down. You don't have to do that. But I think that proven that that was not an option because so many years had passed and they hadn't been before you. And so this would be the only way. But it has to be talked about. It has to be changed. And you think of how close they're riding that line to the state bar weighing in on their licensures. They work hard for that. They work hard for that. And I'm going to tell you, no case is worth losing your future. No case is worth losing your licensure. No case is worth losing your reputation. So when you walk in to another courthouse or another job or county job or anything, and no one wants to hire you because of what was displayed, it really puts a deep crink in your legacy that you built. And you have to look at everybody in that room as veterans. And how they got there. It's not what you do, but it's how you do it, and you can't do it maliciously. And you can't grasp onto every part of their collar and turn them every which way but loose, because you have to have the conviction. Nobody needs a conviction. Nobody needs a win unless it's for an intent. This is not true justice here. Justice don't look like this. The laws that are being manipulated into word semantics is insane. And then you have to weigh in the other side. Where they're at is a totally unsafe, unhealthy environment that is not a place to be for anybody out here. And it's why America is zooming in to say how long is this actually going to go on? Because if you guys really followed this case from the beginning, it never really got really big worldwide static the first year. It was there, but it wasn't there as it is now. And if you see where you're at right now, it is totally different. It says, nope, the truth doesn't need any support. It does not, because it's going to stand on its heels. It's going to stand on its heels. And if you truly, if you guys remove every part of speculation and the dots that they connected on their own, that they feel makes sense, and it seems as if every single person is confused off of the way that their thought process of translating to say this is what it is. They have said time and time again, that's wrong. The witnesses are proving, no, that's wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Yes, yes, beautiful one. We did talk about that. It says, how do veterans need a Brady course? Yeah, we talked about that. They don't, they don't. And I know that they were probably like, are you serious? It's a pre-recorded video. Literally. All you do is sit in the courtroom and you have a deputy verifying that you're there, and they push play and you sit there and you watch it, and when it's done, you're able to leave, and the deputy will report back to the judge that it was completed and they were present, and that's it. Sometimes the judge is there, sometimes the judge is not. It depends. And it says, beautiful, and Ashley Merchant pulled Glanville off of that bench with that law. Yeah, she came in very informative, very strong. She knows the law forward and backwards. Mr. Steele does as well, along with the other attorneys, but Mr. Steele is the primary advocate there, as everyone can see. Him and Mr. Adams are the primary, and Shart has way more ability to speak now that he didn't have before. The ability wasn't there. He was shut down all the time. And Ashley Merchant did come in and say, the difference between the contempt. And there was confusion, and, coming back, it was a shock that he doubled down and stuck to what it was. The one thing I didn't know was, when is Steele, did Glanville dismiss his criminal contempt when he was recused? Did that go moot as well as Mrs. Bumpus? I thought that motion, I was reading the motion for Miss Sylvia at the time, and I couldn't remember because I was like pre-reading the next sentence in my head as I was reading. So I couldn't remember if I remember they said that The motion for recusal was granted, and it said that Mrs. Bumpus' situation was denied because it was denied as moot. And then it had Mr. Steele in there. I can't remember if it said Mr. Steele was denied as moot or not. That is one motion I have to go back on and look at his, because I was looking forward, because he does have the legal right to due process. And so I wanted to see how that was going to play out, because the cross examination would have said a lot, to be able to have them up there and be able to ask the appropriate questions that the people are interested to know. Beautiful, and that's exactly right. Brady is a cause for mistrial. We went over a couple days ago what different words in the law mean, and when certain things happen in a trial, what is the remedy per law. And everyone that we pulled up, they had met all three criterias, and we haven't seen those yet. It says, yes, prosecutions cannot beat the defense with the law. Yeah, so the law is pretty you know, pretty clear. It is pretty clear, and any gray lines obviously have room to update and have other added or changed. And as I went through the process earlier, what are the steps to take to have it changed, and what can you do where citizens actually have a voice, and what is the process for that. And you definitely can go right in front of the Senate, and they can create it. You can advocate, you can do the research, you can do everything. You can be the activist, you can advocate, you can do all of that. Okay, it says, but still is an appeal. I thought that in Glanville's final order that he had put out, it said he did not, I thought he said he did not intend to keep that further. But I know the Supreme Court did weigh in, but I didn't know exactly. I thought that it was dismissed out. Hi, Janelle. You didn't get the notification? I didn't either. Usually I get my own notification, and I didn't get it for tonight either. And I don't know. There was a little bit of complications with getting on today. So I apologize. I didn't get mine either. Yeah, so beautiful one. That's exactly right. When you said, wow, I mean, that's where we are on it, and that's why we wrote the letter. And I'm gonna read the letter for you guys really quick because it's super short. And we wrote a letter to the attorneys, and just wanted them to know that there are ones out here that care. And let's see, let me open this for you guys really quick. We had sent this out. And hopefully, just a little small token. It says, "Dear defense attorneys of the Fulton County YSL trial, your unwavering dedication to justice and the rights of your clients since 2022 has not gone unnoticed. In the face of numerous challenges and setbacks, you have consistently demonstrated remarkable resilience and professionalism. The complexity of this high-profile case, coupled with the various issues that have arisen during the trial, would test even the most seasoned legal professionals. Yet you continue to stand firm in your commitment to ensuring fair representation for your clients. Your perseverance in navigating the intricacies of this case, despite the obstacles, is truly commendable. You embody the highest ideals of our legal system, the steadfast protection of defendant rights, and the pursuit of justice, regardless of public opinion or external pressures. Remember that your work is crucial not just for your clients, but for the integrity of our justice system as a whole. Each day you step into that courtroom, you are upholding fundamental constitutional principles and setting an example for future legal professionals. While the road has been long and undoubtedly exhausting, know that your efforts are recognized and appreciated. Your dedication to your clients and to the legal profession itself serves as an inspiration to many. Stay strong, remain focused, and continue to fight the good fight. Your work matters, and your perseverance in the face of adversity is a testament to your character and your commitment to justice. The legal community and the nation stand with you. Those who value fair trials, due process, and the fundamental principles of our justice system recognize the importance of your tireless efforts with deepest respect and encouragement. And we signed it. So that is what we had wrote for the attorneys there. I do have one for the prosecutors, and we can share that one tomorrow. And we did do one for both sides. But we did want to let the defense know, it's not just about the clients, but how they're upholding their self, and they are trying to do the right thing continuously, day after day after day after day, even facing it's got to be an ill feeling walking in knowing that no matter what you do as an attorney and what that law says, that there could be speculation or there could be some twist or turn that occurs backhand, and that can change everything. And it could change the whole course of your client's life. And so, it may not be huge words, it may not be a long letter, just something short and sweet to know that, the nation is there. We have talked to many, many different people of professions that have gotten involved in the call of action, that they're on the same page, and it was very surprising, the ones that had stepped forward. I was shocked, but I am pleased because it lets you know that they are in it because the pursuit of justice and to uphold those principles, no matter if others view them that they should not be standing there on a call of action. So I appreciate that they had enough courage to come forward to say, I'm in, and I will do whatever I can to help. And I thought that that was a beautiful part in it, because it's got to be hard to fight that fight. And when you know that you've had several things that have occurred, that you shouldn't still be in that courtroom with all of the things. I would just hope, as I told you guys before, I was told, and I don't know, it's word of mouth, so it is speculation, but I was told that in real life, that these women at the prosecution table and even Miss Willis, that their character is not of that. So that's what got me, is that's what makes you feel like, you have to zero in a lot more because something is wrong here. But then when I look at other cases that Mrs. Love has been a part of, she has been very, very, very hard, and very strict. And it seems like if she wants that conviction, she's going to get it at all costs. And if that behavior is allowed under her direct reporting, which would be Miss Willis, Miss Willis, if she was truly against those things, there would have been some ramifications that would have happened, and we would have seen a difference in behavior. You have to think of prejudicial behavior in front of those jurors. Those jurors have seen yelling, they have seen disrespect, they have seen lack of candor to the court, they have seen eye rolling, they have seen the waving the hand, uh, tossing the paperwork hard down on the desk in front of them because they just had a huge argument back and forth and it did not go in favor to them. And all of those things, the first thing that they teach you is your facial expressions and how you have to maintain them within a trial, because you cannot show that to the jurors. And unfortunately, in this situation, where they are sitting is the closest place to the jurors. And so that is very prejudicial right there. These juries are seeing the personal reaction responses in real time, and that sticks with them. And that could be hurtful to that table, because the jurors may look at that as that is very unprofessional. If I know for a fact that if I was a juror sitting there, my mind will already be made up a long time ago. So I will already be tuned out at this point in the trial, because my mind would have already been made up just off of behavior and what we're seeing for the type of evidence that is coming through and the type of witnesses that are coming through. I I would already know that this is not justice and this is not what should be happening here. And as oblivious as people can think, and as many admonitions that you give the jurors that they can't talk to anyone, can't talk to each other, can't look at social media, everyone knows what has happened here. Your jurors 100% know what has happened here, because all of those extended long breaks makes curiosity kill the cat. They're going to look to see, why are we out for 3 weeks? Why are we out for 2 weeks? Why are we out again this week? And court is still going on. So it's not just, you just have way higher expectations for veterans in the field. And these aren't the expectations that you would think. So I expected, as a professional, and the importance of Mrs. Willis's job as a district attorney, um, ultimately the responsibility of the city is on her shoulders every single day. And with that responsibility, the actions of your fellow um, predecessors underneath you, and that is their behavior and their ethics, and you see that they're not displaying candor to the court as a official, as a public official, that is in the seat, and they are underneath you, it is your duty. And she was promoted to chief. It says Love tried to shoe steal from the podium. Was that today, beautiful one? Beautiful one said, "That's not a personality that you turn on and off. When I first laid eyes on her, I said she is the W word." The W word. Why? It's late where I am. It's late where everyone is right now. What am I missing? The W word. Oh man, I feel like I'm slow to thinking right now. I'm like, wait, I wonder why the juries didn't run. I believe they didn't even know they could get free. No, so there were juror hardship claims that have not been dealt with. They went in with Glanville. That had been discussed. Exactly, Janelle says, "You expected so much more from those prosecutors." Yeah, with, experience, you would think that they would totally, have it, "Oh, this, this is not admissible. This is a issue, this is a issue," and just have it all laid out and presented. Because if you really, really look at it as a whole, it does look like a whole bunch of this, a whole bunch of that, a whole bunch of little bit of this, little bit of that. But when you look at it as a whole, it's really not anything solid, concrete, a lot of speculation in between. But not only that, you have to look at exactly what they do have. So this whole long process has been from the extensive witness list because the actual evidence alone should fit in one file. And all of the calls, it should already be identified which one they're using, what statements, and that's just preparation for a case. And I'm just going to tell you, when you have a high profile case, you have to have organization. You have to have that set up like no other. You have to. It has to be organized, but it is apparent to me that, they're going, they're doing it as they go along. And so that is why the time is needed, because you can see the lack of preparation on the case. But is it lack of preparation or is it lack of evidence? And what you're trying to put together has to be long and drawn out in order for it to try to connect. And you only can connect it through speculation. And I think that is what the people have seen through. So as a professionals, you would hope that the person that is running the show, a lot of people get stuck at who's sitting at that prosecution table, but they don't call any of those shots that is occurring. They don't call those. They have to get permission to their reporting. And if she said she made a personal promise on a press release that she was getting justice, that is exactly what she meant. But unfortunately, she has to weigh in as a professional and say, the team that I put on it, even though they are veterans and I have the chief on it and I have another two other seasoned that have many years of experience, probably thought in her head 100% that it was going to be handled. And since it was not handled appropriately, because all of these things have occurred, at what point does she weigh in for damage control and say, okay, this was not supposed to be carried out this way, but you have to look at where you're at right now at it. And unfortunately, the team had made some very critical mistakes. And they're of mistakes that you would usually see of amateur status, not veteran status. So that's what makes we, the people, hold them to a higher standard and a higher accountability because they have the skill set and the knowledge and the years underneath their belt to do and perform differently. And there is no room to withhold Brady. There is no room for ex partes that are not announced because they felt they didn't have a right to be there. Unfortunately, the law states you have to give notice. They have to have an option to weigh in. And I've never seen a star witness, a sworn in star witness. Any star witness in any criminal case is a critical stage. When they hit the stand, that is when the case is at the critical point. Because everything weighs in off of that testimony based off of what you're presenting. So, seeing that, you have to you have to hold her to a higher standard for the actions. And that is what I mean by damage control, for Mrs. Love to weigh in, or Mrs. Willis to weigh in and say the team did not deliver this, um, the way it had made critical errors along the way. And unfortunately, that is why the trial is lost. And then you deal with your team and you deal with those issues. And then you move forward, but you come up with a different plan, how to do things. And it can't be the malicious way, because as it's the people's seat, you have to please the people. And if the people are not happy right now and they're outraged, I don't know how you can expect to sit in seat, term after term, and you have your county outraged. It says they may have had a shot with just trying Thug, Woody, Shannon, and Yak Gotti for nuts on aliving. No, because the evidence is not there. Thug was out of country. And I can't remember what they seen. Well, Yak Gotti, they said, was at a gas station a few minutes before, but he was with his significant other, a woman, and he was getting snacks. Definitely doesn't look like someone that just came from a murder. No one's going to be thinking about snacks after a murder. And to be with a girl. Like, you had time to go commit a murder and you had time to go pick up a girl and go get some snacks, and it's been under 5 minutes, or, like, I think they said 6 minutes. I apologize. Something or that. Anybody that does that, they're just not going to pull up down the road to a gas station and have a girl with them already and getting snacks for the night. It obviously looked like they were going to spend some time or whatever they were going to do together, but that definitely didn't look like someone just came from a murder. Ayana says, it says, right, and she's on the witness list. I wonder why his alibi wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough for them because he happened to be in the area where he lived at a gas station. And so since that was the case, it was in the area, then it met the theory of what the state had pieced together, that it met that. It doesn't meet the other side of it. But I mean, any of you guys just really think about it. You guys go commit a murder. Are you going to have time to go pick up a guy, go get some snacks for the night? You're going to be amped up. You're going to be riled up. That is not going to be a first thing that you're going to do. And so it's just really crazy to see all of it happen. And then you watch the testimony unpack twice now with the star witness. And through, as he said on there, they said they didn't want him. He was a little fish and they wanted a big fish. And I couldn't understand that aspect, because the only difference, they were not even from the same area, didn't grow up in the same area. And the star witness was affiliated with a whole different side. And so that is insane. Beautiful one. That is a really good question. So we did just learn about this through a couple of the centers. Says, I wonder how the citizens of Fulton County feel after Willis now with her affair and this trial. That's exactly right, and now it's unraveling, and it's really weird that it's just kinda coming out lately, but where they have seen a turn is the ones that were in support of her, are they have changed their mind, and there's, many on the fence because of what they do see now that they didn't see then. They had did a questionnaire and spoke with people, and they were doing their regular activist work. And they said they had a percentage that said that they actually voted for her in May in the primary. And they said, had they known what they know now and what they're seeing now, they said that it would have been a different situation. But now November is coming up, and she's running up against Courtney Kramer, and in her primary, she won 100%. But she does have a lot of support. She's a born, raised, and still lives in Fulton County. So the history is there. She knows the city frontwards and backwards. Not a lot of experience on the opposite side for prosecutorial. That would be the new side, but she's an attorney, and obviously everyone comes in at that point, but she's held higher levels, also worked in a program inside the White House. Of course, you got to have a skill set to be in there, to be able to do any type of work. So it's really interesting to see, because from what her support group and speaking with the local activists that are there that are on the ground right now, she has a lot of support. It says, I guess winter is coming. I wonder how. Yes. Can you believe we're already going to be in September? Says, after witnessing this kind of despicable behavior in court, I question how many other cases they have handled that has been in this way. Investigation should be made. So that's exactly right. So one thing as a citizen is basically you can request whatever you want. You can go in front, you can talk, you can plead, you can give them um, the ins and outs and what's happening. And I know that one of the remedies, the background is, the key issue of concerns that is being raised is, prosecutorial misconduct, judicial recusal, personal vendetta, systematic corruption. Um, for the legal arguments, you see due process violations, Sixth Amendment infringements, you see ethical breaches, you see abuse of discretion, and the call to action that any citizen can go in front of, and ask for, thorough, independent federal investigation. Um, to look at this case and potentially other cases. You can also look at the review of charges in light of apparent misconduct and potential constitutional violations. You can also ask for implementation of oversight measures to prevent future abuses and restore public trust in the justice system. And then obviously, consideration of federal civil right charges against any official found to have willfully deprived any of them of their constitutional rights under color of law. That's 18 USC 242. And so there are things, that can be asked and put forward. And so, they announced that there are open investigations for different things, and now they're saying that they are looking at it as a whole. Before, they were only kind of looking into what it was covered through the Congress, was through the Trump trial and what they had uncovered there. But now they're zeroing in as a whole, because what they are reporting is systematic corruption within. And so when that is alleged, they have to look at every single aspect of it. And so that's why you see the other trial on pause. Yeah, she does have to go before the Congress. Yeah, there was well, they had subpoenaed to ask for records, but at some point, that's going to happen. I know that they went back and forth, and I know that she had responded and said that, basically they can't get in the way of justice. And we do have the letters back and forth. If we have the letter from the Congress to Fani and from Fani to the Congress. If you guys want us to read that tomorrow, we can and put that up for you guys. That will be no problem. We do have that. Have no problem with it. They had a little nasty back and forth. Definitely, it was not. The responses to each other were very direct. You could feel the animosity coming from it, and you can see that it's going to be a battle. They have two separate point of views. And so, you're not asking for nothing outside of the ordinary than to stay within the law. And I say, if that's the work that you go into and that's your passion, and you want to prosecute every day and take care of put criminals away and do all that, you can't lose sight of what the evidence is, and you cannot be prejudicial by appearance or what they do as a profession. Because let's be honest, rap music has a bad stigma that they put that is their character as a person. It says Cat Williams opened up the 2024 portal of exposure. He definitely said 2024 was the year of the truth. But it's not proven to be successful when you do it like that, and it doesn't prove to be successful to rule to rule like that in a large city, because you want your city to work with you. It's the people's seat. And so you definitely want to keep the city happy that you are representing. You are the face that is representing that. And at no time, it was very disheartening to hear that 4,000 rape kits were not tested due to the funding used for a special prosecutor for the Trump RICO. And that was very sad, because you think of all of those victims that will no longer have the DNA evidence. And this was what was reported. We didn't get further into that because it has not been confirmed, so it is alleged. And I always say at the end of every video, allegedly, or say it somewhere in, because some of the things we're still researching on or trying to have for sure confirmation. What we don't want is word of mouth. And so, most of the things that some people will either type in the comments or send over or any of the above. We have to make sure that that's what occurred. Um, but that was put out there from the Kramer campaign. She had said that 4,000 rape kits were forfeited and not tested because the money was used. Now, does harsh punishment deserve to go to child molesters, people that rape men, women, young boys, children? Don't think it's just women that get raped, men get raped too. And so you think of both, needing justice for that, and you think of children being harmed. Those should be hard. Murder, if you have the right person, you got the evidence to prove that they did it, then obviously no one should have the authority to end or end someone else's life. We don't have that say. So we should never have the power to be able to end someone's life. But you can't make up things in between to make sure that the outcome is in your favor and that the outcome is of what you want it to be. So there's a big differential. And that's why the other day we had covered malicious prosecution, because there is a difference. But it's everything as the whole, and you want to see better. You want the community to do better. And I don't know what it is, but this month they just woke up. They were not woke prior to the way that they are now. Before, a lot of them were really in defense for Mrs. Willis, and that whole narrative has changed as things has occurred. And that's what I meant by clean up the process, because everyone underneath you who you have put on the case is no good. It is damage beyond any repair. There is nothing repairable here. And if I can speak as we the people, and I can say from me sitting in there as a juror, if I was a juror, I would tell you my mind would have been made up a year ago. So I would definitely be filing hardship claims at this point if I'm still there a year later, and they are. You have to think of the economy and where they're at and what they're getting paid. Yeah, there was a lot of money that went out for the special prosecutor. And if you look at the pay differential to what he was getting paid in his professional capacity before he had this assignment and this role given to him, I mean, his income had went from a yearly of what he was being paid, a little over 100 to almost 900 is a huge differential. So it does matter. Yes, Janelle says if people are waking up, then good, and exposure is working. It is, and I think they're just weighing in, and I think it's because it's way more groups that are getting involved and shedding light and having the meetings and informing. They do go door to door for elections with fact sheets and things like that, and try to get people to vote. And they have to put the actual statistics on there and try to get people and also people to join their fight because they are activists. They said what was reported is they don't know what occurred from May until now. but they said it's just like all of a sudden a bell went off. But there is a lot of people that have reported that were in support of her, and they are stating that they are ready for a change and they are ready for someone else to take over because they said that it is the same consistency. So, this is what everyone heard 4 years ago when Mr. Howard was in seat, that the office was a mess, and you heard that publicly, and you heard that it was in a disarray. You heard there was deep-seated corruption and all of that, but there's nothing that's changed but him. Because everyone that has years of status there are still there. So systematically, what is different? Because when you go into all of the profiles and you read how long that they have been there and underneath that courthouse, it has been many, many years for all of them. And so when you take that into account and you look at that, all of the things that she had shed light on are the things that are happening right now when she had voiced it on her interview when she was campaigning to have the seat for her first term. She had alleged all of these things that are occurring right now. She said the people deserve to have someone in seat that would not sleep with coworkers that work there. She said that the people deserve someone that would instill from little black and brown children that they're not fit to sit there. She also said that it wasn't okay to take money and to not use grant money appropriately. That's what's happening right now. And so what I called it the other day is those weren't exact quotes. I read the exact ones from the transcript from the interview 3 days ago on here, and I called it power of the tongue. And so that's where you're at now. Now you have the city that is waking up now to say, okay, now we see. So everything that had been alleged before, we're fast forward. Now the difference is we're at election again. But it isn't just allegations. Things have been proven on record. And so there's a big difference here this time. And so with that, the only thing you have left is to go through it. And so you have to look at, the taxpayer dollars and how long this has been occurring for. And it's sad because a lot of people really wished well for her going into that seat, and they really hope for drastic changes. They didn't foresee using these resources for that far back when there's so much on the table to take care of. You have the entire jail situation, the overcrowding, the condition it is. You have the inner city youth that is in need of additional funding. You have the housing authority that has totally lost sight, and there is an oversight on handling of the money there as well. And so you see all of these things happening all at once, and everything was after the primary. And so it made a difference. And so it's not that just writing letters and going to speak in front of others and making sure that you're able to get a bill pushed up and, help advocate for that to happen. You have to look at the facts, and you have to look at, okay, at what point did they wake up? And unfortunately, most of them didn't wake up to this month. And so you'll see a very different dynamic. You have right there in Fulton County, Miss Montgomery, that's been all over the news with America First Works. That does strictly voting, education, election, all of that. They have the HBCU that they have all grouped together for the Trump campaign. They have that. They have busloads that they are coordinating, picking up community members. They have been educating the public there, and it has been very successful. There's several other groups that have been. And so it's like, what was the change? Was it far enough in the trial now? Was it the recusal? Was it the ex partes? Was it the allegations? Because everyone took a different turn once the investigation had launched due to, and I can tell you, I was one of the ones that at first said I wasn't tuned all the way in, but I said, well, what would her personal life have anything to do with the job title? Until I found out, oh, well, he was a special prosecutor. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And then the funding and all of those things. So that's, where it made a difference. And I know probably looking back, when she looks back on that interview and she looks till today, she could probably, maybe not now, but later on, say, I would have done things totally differently. Because what her goal is, what she put on record, is that she wanted 3 seats, 3 terms. She wanted her last term to be her legacy, and then she wants to open her business as a party planner coordinator. And that is what she had put in an interview. It says, opening of the eyes of the people to the truth. That's what many have been praying for when we first heard of this injustice. Yes. Yes, it is. And it's pretty scary when you hear in an interview, when she's standing up in the podium and has all the sheriffs behind her and says, if you take that turn, you're going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent. And what I can say is, she means what she says and says what she means, because if you look at prior cases prior to this one, and you see what the sentencing has been, there is a lot of people that has had very, very harsh sentencing. Very, very harsh sentencing that you wouldn't typically see, and it's a message that she's trying to get across. And unfortunately, that type of message and antics and that type of to be able to clean up an area, you can't do it through that way. To the max extent of everything, you have to meet your city where it is. And since that is the seat of the people, you would definitely want to see the people in 100% full support of you. Yes, beautiful one. You said what? I'm not sure what on what part. It says, did you say no sleeping with colleagues before or after the first one? That was her first campaign. So when she was campaigning to get in the term that she's in now, she had an interview with Atlanta Voice, and she had spoke about her running mate that she was running against. That was her boss, and he actually had mentored her. And he did come out in another interview, and he said that it was very hurtful, because he said that he was hit with the lawsuit 2 weeks before election, and that it really hurt him. And since everything that has played out on what she had alleged while she was campaigning, running against her boss, the things that she touched on there. Now, fast forward, she's up for another term. That's exactly what is being investigated. So I wouldn't be surprised if the lawsuit comes to her a couple weeks before election, because it seems, power of the tongue, everything that has occurred 4 years ago is fast forward right now. And so you just want, you hope for better, and you hope for more. And the only way you can get to that is call of action and advocating to the people. Or do you honestly think, and I want you guys to drop this in the chat. I honestly want you to drop this in the chat. Everybody in here, I want you to drop it in the chat. Do you believe that if she dismisses this, that she can regain public trust and regain those votes back, and they would be in support of her for a second term? I'm gonna wait till it comes through. I'm very, very curious on your guys' thought on that. I want to see if would she have the report? Yes, beautiful one, to the HBCU. So, HBCU right there, is in support. They have busing through, the county coordinator with that program. Not county coordinator, I have it right here. Let me give it to you. Let me give it to you. Yes, so as the county coordinator for America First Works, she is paired with the HBCU, and they are getting people to the poll. They are educating. Also, a state director in another position, and she also served in a public service commission as an executive. And so they are doing it. I don't know. The fact that she brought the case in the first place lets me know she can't be trusted. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. It was personal. She brought up the personal promise and all of those things, said she should do it, but there's absolutely no coming back from this. Who would ever trust her again? Yeah, it seems like that's what a lot of people are saying. A lot of people are saying that. But if you are going to go out and you do lose this term and you do not have a second seat, um, wouldn't you want to go out with, or at least clean it up so that way you have to work on your legacy? This could be the end of your legacy right here, in this short time. No one can say that she is going to for sure win the election. And it looks, a lot of people have come out and said that their minds have changed and they were in full support of her. And there was a lot that said, she had my vote in May. And they said that she would not have their vote in November. And so that goes to show you, even if you have a true Democrat that is not gonna vote and vote Republican, because of the actions, you would think that right now she would be in cleanup mode. And then still yet today, yesterday and the day before, we see the same issues happening in the court, and then that same behavior, is still happening with the chief prosecutor. So you have to, at some point, go somewhere with that. You have to do something with that. It says depraved heart. Yeah, it's really deep. You know, it's really deep to look at it. Unfortunately, the theory and mindset that these six gentlemen behind bars is making Fulton safer is the most absurd thing. How six individuals and the crime had proven during that time had actually went down, and the crime that has been over the past 3 consecutive years. Ayana says, you took money to help the children of your community to buy swag and Apple products and travel. Yeah, unfortunate. You know, and it could be children that could be prevented, could have made it an impact this year where you wouldn't see them in the future. You wouldn't see them anytime soon because you would be getting everything matters. It really does matter. Um, there's a lot that goes into your day to day and your responsibility as a district attorney. I'm sure she's stressed out. I'm sure there's a lot of stress day to day. But one thing I want them to remember is no one is above the law, not even when you're the one that is prosecuting. No one is above the law. And the same way that citizens are held responsible, um, you know, just as a simple reminder, those are the same measures that are going to be handed to anyone through the investigations if they show that all of this wrong has been made. I don't think that any of you guys as professionals would want the bully tactics used in the harsh maximum or to put anything together that would fit the narrative to make sure they prosecute you. You would definitely fight and be outraged the same way you were outraged on the testimony stand. You were very outraged, and it was hard for you to conduct yourself in a professional manner. And that's the minimum that we have to do. That's the minimum. And you can't go into bully mode, or you can't go into the aggression and be upset because you can be able to speak to colleagues. They say that your brothers, your fellow attorneys, whether they're prosecutors or defense, they are your fellow brother and sisters in bar. So you have to work with them. Again, you guys are from the same county. So you would think that at least you would at least touch minimum, that if you are in the public eye and you have to get on that witness stand, unfortunately, you know, you did, and you brought yourself up there, even though you were advised not to go up. you brought yourself up there kind of unprepared, and it really was not a good thing for you. And then your response is as a professional. And as you see that behavior, it is more understandable on how your chief prosecutor is allowed to conduct herself in this manner, and your ADA is allowed to conduct herself in that manner. Yeah, there's several witnesses that lost their jobs behind the case. Well, think of the hardships of the jurors. Their income has been severely affected in probably the worst times in America that it could be with inflation. Their families are really feeling that. Children are really feeling that. So it says she doesn't seem to think she can be touched. That makes me wonder who is backing her that she should be so arrogant. Janelle, a lot of people say that. A lot of people say that. A lot of people are saying that. Who would be backing her to support that? Well, unfortunately, um, the hierarchy doesn't back that, and they're looking into that. And so anyone at a county level kind of really doesn't make a difference when they come from the hierarchy higher up. Then there's nothing you can do but basically answer to the consequences that they have. And if she has done what was right, then it will reflect and it will show. And if not, then that will reflect in what it showed. But what they put on record was their preliminary investigation did show that, yes, something further needed to be launched because they had found indiscrepancies. And they put that on record. And so when you look at that, so that should cue her in automatically that, okay, I need to do something now and I need to clean this up professionally, not just for her office and what she's running, but her as a professional and for her livelihood afterward. Because these type of things can totally lose your credibility where, people don't want to do business with you. If you open up your own business or whatever you do, or if you go into another term, the support that you need. The last thing you want is the people to turn on you, we the people, because no matter who it is on fellow county or anything that is backing her, one thing that they cannot do is they cannot change any outcome, but they cannot change the people's vote. They can do whatever they want to do, but one thing they can't change is the people's vote. And you know that it's the people's vote that sit her there. And it's the people's vote that unseat her there. So it's like the people are her CEO or her CFO. The people are. That's basically who she reports to, is the people. Everyone has the power to terminate her in that position through casting their vote. If you guys are truly unhappy with the way that she's performing and all of the things that have come out. But we do know that her prosecution team that is under her belt has totally demolished this case. And there's going to be a lot to come from this. It's going to be a lot to come from this, especially when it reaches other platforms. There's not really much that can be done when it goes through that process. And so that is very That's a very important piece of information that people need to understand. A lot of people wait and say, well, this person needs to get involved. This person needs to get involved. Yes, they do. I agree. But the biggest person that has to get involved is you. Because if you don't, nothing changes. Then what happens is she'll have the ones that do go out and vote to vote for her. But now upper class and middle class are now outraged. And it just started coming more now. Like I said, from what they were reporting, it was this month is where they were waking up to say, okay, now we see this is not right. And prosecution of them makes no differential to our community, to reach back that many years, especially if they haven't been before there. 6 men is not going to make the type of difference that is being communicated within a city that big. And you have the other issues at hand with all of these hybrid younger generation that are really careless, really reckless, and they are a different breed. She does have a opponent, Kramer. Beautiful One says, I would feel betrayed if I had voted for Fani. Yeah, I mean, I think that is where they're weighing in at. This is not how they wanted to see the taxpayer dollars being sent. And unfortunately, when you keep going and there is no stop for it and it doesn't matter, and all of these things have taken place, I mean, you really have to place the blame at the feet of who's handling it on the front line. And since she was on the Trump RICO, if the Trump RICO wasn't there, you can rest assured she would have that, the YSL. But the one thing that I love that was reported is that they have a lot of new people that are getting ready to sign up for voting, that haven't before, that now want to, because they said it makes a difference for their children, their grandchildren, and the community that they're in. So with everyone waking up, it is amazing. I don't want to see nobody hurt, anything bad come to anybody. I don't ever wish no will ill on anyone, because they say when you wish ill will on someone, those type of things reflect back to you. But I do expect them to do better, as professionals holding that seat. But for her, the higher expectation would be at her feet, because she is the one to pull the plug or keep the plug in. And it's solely her decision. Yeah, so it makes a difference, guys. It makes a huge, huge difference. It makes a huge difference. But there's a lot of ways to get involved, to be able to help, the community, the youth too. There are nonprofits out there that are trying to do things for children, anything. City centers, programs for after school sports, all of those things. So that's what you want to see. All right, guys, we stayed on way, way longer. My partner is probably snoozing. We both get up super early. It is 2 a.m. I do have to be up at 6 a.m. We have a 7 a.m. conference call tomorrow. So we are going to end here. If there's something you guys want us to cover, please send it in the chat, and we will see if it is on our list of things that we have for you guys. I know that we went a little bit off track today. We did not do the Democratic National Convention and did not cover the Republican National Convention. We will be posting the voting schedule when our special guest comes on. And then we do have another special guest that has signed up to come on, and he is going to talk to you guys. So we do have 2 guests to take on the platform to be able to educate you guys and bring you guys real raw information in the now. That is going to help spread the word. And then we will be announcing the date for our call of action for you guys to all be involved, for the ones that we have on the list. So we appreciate your time always and want to be respectful of your time. It is late, so we will be on tomorrow. And if there's something that you want us to go over or something you want us to cover, just let us know, and we will be happy to share it with you guys and inform you guys of any information that you're looking for, or if you guys just simply want to sign up. We are looking for still 10 more people that is eligible to be able to hold the petitions during the call of action, to keep that circulating, and for ones to be able to hold the signs that we have, and all of that. And so we want to make sure that we're giving everyone the opportunity, and we thank the ones that have reached out to be able to help. We do have donations of cases of water that are being donated free of charge, so that no dehydration takes place. It is a long day out there. Hopefully the weather is cooperating. We are going to be keeping an eye out on it. And then we will also be at different polling centers, and we are working with several different centers within the community that are getting people out to the polls. And we will be right there helping out. And then when we go to DC, we're actually going to be live on camera for you guys to see that process. And anytime that we have a meeting, we're going to bring you guys into it, so that way you can have an inside look of how the process works. Since I did cover how citizens can help change laws and how to bring them forth, since I did cover that earlier, I am going to drop it in the link for you guys to look over it, so you know how to get involved, and exactly what credential you need. You need to be a citizen, and where to bring it to when you are a citizen, or you can join with us. We'll welcome you at any time. So we hope you guys all have a good night, and always stay blessed and stay safe. And remember, reach one, teach one, and we will do it. Yes, Janelle, we are going to do the DNC and RNC, and we do have all the voting schedules. If you guys are not in the state of Georgia, wherever you guys are at, and you don't have that information, drop it in the chat, and we will be happy to get you guys your voting information for your state and your county that you're in. If there's anything that you guys need, any ride to there, we can also share a place within your community. So one of our people has access to have all the voting places everywhere, and we can share that and get that at any time. And we will also have our guest that is coming on to cover that as well. So we look forward to having you guys again. As always, have a good night. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.